Chapter 2995, The End, 18. At the same time, Leng Ruoxue and Qing Ju were doing their best to break the god-binding array that Wu Xian had set up outside of Evil Demon City. A year later, the two of them only managed to crack 1/3 of the array. In this 1 year, the two of them had rested many times. The god-binding array had consumed too much divine power, and they had used up quite a number of top-grade crystals. This made Leng Ruoxue's heart ache. However, when it was time to spend money, Leng Ruoxue would definitely not be reluctant. Just like that, after 3 years, the two of them finally achieved some results. Leng Ruoxue and Qing Ju were excited when they saw the formation above Demon City dimming. After being trapped in the god-binding array for 3 years, they were completely clueless about the situation outside. However, this did not affect Leng Ruoxue's plan. Right now, only the array core was still in operation. As long as they could destroy the array core, they would be able to escape successfully. After Leng Ruoxue specifically instructed the demon, she focused all her energy on dealing with the formation core. This formation's eye was even more powerful than the one that had imprisoned the 3 beasts. Leng Ruoxue and Qing Ju had to exhaust all the divine power in their bodies and fight with the formation's eye for a while before they were finally able to destroy it. After the light from the array eye disappeared, Wu Xian, who was in the God Lord's manor, vomited blood and fainted. Leng Ruoxue and Qing Ju were not any better off. Both of them fell to the ground weakly. The demon carried Leng Ruoxue in his arms and carried Qing Ju, who could not receive any special treatment from him, back to the Leng family's main residence. With a thought, the 3 of them had already appeared in the bracelet. Uncle Long and the others immediately surrounded them and asked about their well-being. For the past 3 years, they had seen how hard Leng Ruoxue and Qing Ju had worked, but they were unable to help at all. This made them feel even more depressed, and their hatred for Wu Ice increased. However, now was not the time to complain. After watching Leng Ruoxue and Qing Ju enter the purple bamboo house to rest, Uncle Long and the rest stood guard outside. The next day, after Leng Ruoxue had slightly recovered, she immediately arranged for Shui Mo to help Tsang. The extremely unwilling evildoer was asked by Leng Ruoxue to be a bodyguard. Although the two of them were depressed, they didn't dare to delay and immediately headed to the God Guardian Tower. When he reached the God-protecting tower, Shui Mo immediately saw the 6-pointed star array. It was also a god-binding array, but it was smaller. However, it was very powerful. However, what made him quite pleased was that when Wu Yan set up this formation, she did not use her own heart's blood and soul. Otherwise, he was afraid that he would not be able to break it with his strength. A month later, Azure finally regained his freedom. Ah! Senior Tsang, where are you in a hurry to go? Shui Mo turned to ask the demon. He went to take revenge. The evildoer said. That vengeful guy had been tricked by the Ripple Mist bitch this time, so it would be strange if he let her go. Should we follow them and take a look? Shui Mo was worried. No need. Let's go back to Demon City. The demon wasn't worried about Azure, the Mist Ripple couldn't kill it. I'm afraid I can't care about this guy now. Thanks. When Tsang left, he didn't say a word and immediately took action. Many of Wu's black-robed men were killed by him. When the guards of the God Lord's manor saw that the situation was bad, except for those who were dead, almost all of them who could escape ran away. In short, the God Lord's manor was almost empty now. Seeing this, the 3 hierarchs could only follow him to Demon City. As for the Mission Guild, according to Uncle Long and the others' original plan, they were supposed to stay there as spies. After all, they were the people of Fog City on the surface. No matter how vicious that woman was, it was impossible for her to kill her own subordinates. However, this time, more than half of the Imperial City had been destroyed, so there was no need for them to stay there any longer. When Ripple woke up and heard the report from her injured subordinate, she was so angry that she spat out a few mouthfuls of blood and almost fainted again. She quickly entered her domain and sucked the blood of dozens of people before she felt slightly better. After coming out of the domain, she continued to ask, how many people do we still have? Less than 10,000 people. The leader of the men in black said honestly. Less than 10,000. Hearing this number, Ripple Mist's anger grew. When she had the most subordinates, she had over 100 million subordinates. However, in the past few years, she had fought with Leng Ruoxue many times, causing the number of her subordinates to decrease rapidly. The loss of some godly venerable rank experts was the most painful for her. On the other hand, most of her subordinates were between the God King and God Emperor ranks. These people were basically cannon fodder when faced with Leng Ruoxue's group. However, having cannon fodder was better than having them all killed. Moreover, those cannon fodders could be used as food to satisfy her hunger at critical moments, but now she had basically become the commander of the army. Such a tragic fact made her so depressed that she wanted to scratch the wall. Go and get more people for me, Ripple Mist angrily ordered. She needed food. Yes. The leader of the men in black replied. Although he wanted to say that it was not so easy to catch people now, he did not dare to face the anger of his master. He could only carry out the order seriously. 3 months later, the number of missing people in the divine realm had increased rapidly. Compared to the previous time when the various major powers had collectively disappeared, this time, the missing people were basically a few scattered humans. Without exception, they had all become the food of the fog. During this time, he finally managed to contact Uncle Long's Ice Soul. Ice Soul secretly returned to Demon City with Wu, Bing Chan, and the 6 patriarchs from the 8 divine domains. When Uncle Long and the others learned from them that all the major powers of the divine realm had been captured by Rime Ice, they were still shocked even though they had already been mentally prepared. Wu Chen is crazy. Originally, Uncle Long and the others thought that the old woman would find trouble with the forces that were close to them, but they didn't expect that Wuhan would cut the grass to catch the rabbit and not let a single one go. They couldn't understand. Was it necessary to attract hatred like this? This time, they didn't even need to announce Wu Chen's crimes. That bitch Wu Chen had pushed herself to the opposite side of all the forces, and this was definitely good news for them. Not long after, many of the fish that had escaped from the big forces also came to the evil demon city to seek shelter. However, a considerable number of the forces that these people belonged to had once had ideas about the Ning family's divine territory. Although the evil demon city did not directly reject them, they did not receive them well. At most, they did not expel them. Even so, those people were already quite grateful. Currently, Demon City was definitely the safest place in the divine realm. A year later, Leng Ruoxue had finally fully recovered her powers. Leng Ruoxue came out of the bangle and saw Uncle Long and the others. She smiled and said, "You've been waiting anxiously." Chapter 2996, The End, 19, ha ha ha. Shuai, although you were in seclusion, we didn't idle around for the past year. We've basically wiped out all of the Rime bitch's subordinates. Uncle Long said with a smile. Yes, we've already destroyed the left and right arms of the mist bitch. But even so, that old woman has not shown her face even once. I wonder if she's pretending to be dead. Dong Feng Yu added. She's recuperating. Leng Ruoxue said with certainty. During the previous battle, both of them had suffered great losses. During that time, she had used more than a year to recover her spirit chi, while that old woman needed blood. Thus, she didn't need to ask to know that many people had gone missing in the divine realm in the past year. While she was exchanging pleasantries with Uncle Long and the others, Leng Ruoxue used her divine sense to scan the entire demon city. With a single glance, she actually discovered many unfamiliar faces. There seems to be a lot of strangers. Leng Ruoxue asked after her observation. They're all survivors from the major forces. Uncle Long said honestly. Including those? Leng Ruoxue blinked her eyes. The ones she was referring to were naturally the forces that had once set their sights on the Ning family's divine territory. Yes, I am. However, I made them pay the rent. Uncle Long laughed evilly. That's good. I don't want to let them have it easy. Leng Ruoxue laughed coldly. She had no obligation to protect those people. I definitely won't let them take advantage of me. Don't worry. Uncle Long promised. Leng Ruoxue smiled in satisfaction. It wasn't that she didn't want to show her gratitude, but she had said that no matter what those people took away, they would have to return it in double. She didn't expect that her words would come true so quickly. After that, Leng Ruoxue said impatiently, "Let's go to the Imperial City." Good. To the Imperial City. Everyone was excited. Very quickly, the large group set off in a grand manner. A few days later, Leng Ruoxue and the rest were already standing outside the Imperial City's gates. At this moment, the Imperial City's walls were only half of its original size. However, the words, Imperial City, still hung high up in the middle of the walls. Leng Ruoxue and the others could not help but sigh when they saw the once prosperous Imperial City now in such a state. Is Wu Ling planning to give up? Senior brother, we can finally avenge Master this time. Leng Ruoxue looked at Bing Yao and Qin Yang who were beside her. The two of them nodded, their eyes burning with passion. They had been thinking about their master's revenge for tens of thousands of years. Today, they could finally take revenge. With their hearts filled with excitement, the two of them stood side by side with Leng Ruoxue. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. Then, the group walked into the Imperial City together. It could be said that Demon City had sent out all their forces for this battle to the death. Basically, apart from those who had some relationship with you, all the cultivators, RCC, Fengde, and the others who were in seclusion had come out. The most important thing was to participate. They were not willing to let such a big event slip by. They still wanted to witness the end of the Fog Era with their own eyes. He had personally witnessed the rise of Leng Ruoxue's era. Walking on the streets of the Imperial City, Leng Ruoxue looked at the desolate shops on both sides of the street that had long since been left unattended. She felt even more upset. However, this was only temporary. After Rime Ice was destroyed, she would definitely work hard to restore the Imperial City to its former prosperity. After all, this place used to belong to Master. They arrived at the Divine Master's residence. Through the open door, Leng Ruoxue first saw Wu Xian, who was dressed in red, sitting in the courtyard. She seemed to be waiting for them. Behind her stood hundreds of men in black. Thanks, were you waiting for me? Leng Ruoxue asked despite knowing the answer. Others don't have the right to make me wait. Wu Yan said with a charming smile. I should feel honored. Should I say that you are in a hurry to die? Leng Ruoxue asked in surprise. You're so confident that you can kill me? Ripple Mist pretended to be calm. In reality, she was very frustrated. She could already tell that Leng Ruoxue's current strength was only higher than hers. However, she was not willing to admit defeat just like that. As a strong person, she had an incomparable pride. Of course, I've never done anything I'm not confident in. Leng Ruoxue said calmly. I like confident enemies. Wu Xian said with a smile. Thank you, I'll do the same. Leng Ruoxue replied. If we weren't enemies, we might have become friends. Wu Xian said with some regret. I'm sorry, but I think the opposite. I don't think we'll be friends even if we're not enemies. Leng Ruoxue said without giving him any face. Why? Could it be that I'm not worthy of being your friend with my status? River Ripple was furious. Those of different paths cannot conspire together. We're not the same. Leng Ruoxue was very honest. Ha ha ha. What a good different paths, different plans. Do you think you're a good person? You're really hypocritical. Wu Xian scoffed at Leng Ruoxue's words. Although I'm not a good person, I'm still far from you. At least, I won't kill the innocent. Leng Ruoxue retorted seriously. I won't kill innocent people. I've only killed those who deserve to be killed. Wu Xiao quibbled. If that's the case, the number of people you said should be killed is really quite a lot. Or have all the major forces offended you? Are they all people who should be killed? Leng Ruoxue was a little curious. It was rare to see this old woman being so shameless. They're just my food. Just like you humans need to hunt for beasts for food, I need to eat blood too. Ripple Mist said matter-of-factly. Shameless, how can you say such words? Dongfang Yu couldn't bear to listen any longer and interrupted before Leng Ruoxue could react. Am I shameless? How much stronger can you humans be than me? How much stronger can the beast race be than me? Everyone was just following the laws of nature and survival of the fittest. So, let's not talk about each other. Laughed Ripple Mist. Schwer, don't talk nonsense with her. Just attack. Seeing how shameless Wu Ling was, Dongfang Yu couldn't be bothered to waste any more time with her and spoke to Leng Ruoxue directly. Leng Ruoxue didn't want to waste any more time. She nodded and said, all right. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue was about to make a move without even saying a few words, Ripple Mist was furious. With a change of thought, she moved the people locked in her domain out and pointed at those who had been thrown on the ground. Leng Ruoxue, these people are from the 8 great divine regions. If you attack, I'll kill them immediately. You're using your own food to threaten me? Leng Ruoxue didn't even look at the haggard person on the ground as she laughed. Didn't you hear me clearly? They're from the 8 great divine regions. Wu Xian reminded. So what? Do you think I'll compromise because of them? Stop dreaming. Leng Ruoxue said with a half-smile. Chapter 2997, The End, 20. Seeing that she could not threaten Leng Ruoxue, Ripple Mist could only change her target. She looked at the family heads of the 8 great divine regions and questioned, don't you want to save your own people? These people are your descendants. However, none of the family heads paid any attention to her. In reality, they did not have any laws and they did not have the ability to make Leng Ruoxue stop. Moreover, they were not willing to let go of the fog. According to their thoughts, as long as they got rid of Wu Qing first, there was still hope for their tribesmen to be saved. They just had to prevent Wu Qing from making the first move. Hence, they did not dare to cause any trouble for Leng Ruoxue at this moment. After Wu Jing's instigations were fruitless, she was completely enraged. In an instant, several vines flew out from her hand and directly flew towards the people of the 8 great divine regions who were lying on the ground. She even said, it was Leng Ruoxue and your family head who didn't want to save you, so don't blame me. As soon as she finished speaking, some people had already closed their eyes and waited for death. Some of them were sobbing softly, but the anticipated vines did not even have the chance to touch them before they were burnt to ashes by Leng Ruoxue's fire blades. Damn it! Afraid that Leng Ruoxue's flames would affect her, Wu Xian quickly cut off the rattan. As the rattan that fell to the ground turned into ashes, a few drops of red blood dripped down from her sleeve. Does it hurt? Leng Ruoxue asked, pretending to be concerned. Just a few vines. Ripple Mist said indifferently. In fact, she was in great pain. After all, the fingers were connected to the heart. I forgot to tell you that my natal flame has also advanced after I completed the heaven-defying incantation. It's now the real Hundun divine flame. Therefore, the 2 moves you used before are probably useless. So, I'd better think of a new way. Leng Ruoxue kindly reminded. I don't need you to worry. River Ripple roared. She had used spatial imprisonment before, so she could no longer use it under the current circumstances. The god equipment that she used to defend against Leng Ruoxue's flames was a one-use item. Hence, even though the 2 of them had yet to truly fight, she was already feeling a headache and a tough nut to crack when it came to Leng Ruoxue. But even so, she didn't intend to admit defeat so easily. After she finished her sentence, several more vines flew out from her hands. This time, her target was Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue was not flustered and held the cold shadow in her hands. In an instant, countless fiery red meteors flew towards the direction of the fog ice from all directions. This time, without the protection of the divine weapon, Wu Qin did not dare to go head-to-head with Leng Ruoxue's abnormal flames. Unfortunately, it was too late for her to retract her vine. As long as the sparks touched the vine, it would immediately be burned to ashes. Following that, the roars of a dragon and the cries of a phoenix could be heard from the sky. Leng Ruoxue had used her godly power to create 2 dragons and 2 phoenixes. These 4 beasts that were created from her godly power were extremely lifelike, as if they were real. The feathers and scales on their bodies could be clearly seen. As soon as the 4 beastie appeared, they immediately found their target and rushed straight at the fog. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Uncle Long and the others swarmed forward and annihilated hundreds of men in black. They also rescued the pitiful food of fog ice. After this was done, the crowd continued to watch. Shua, why don't you get too chillin'? After watching for a while, Bing Yao was not happy to see only the dragon and the phoenix showing off in the sky. When the crowd heard Bing Yao's words, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Dear, why are you so jealous at this time? This was not a joke. However, after hearing Bing Yao's words, Leng Ruoxue quickly formed 2 more qilin. This time, Bing Yao was satisfied. Thanks. However, the White Tiger race was not satisfied. The White Tiger King had a look of resentment as he said, Master, you're biased. Even though she had such thoughts in her heart, the helpless Leng Ruoxue still formed 2 tigers. This time, the 4 king divine beasts were all present. In the sky, 8 fiery red and burning giant king divine beasts surrounded the fog ice in the middle, baring their teeth and brandishing their claws. These 8 beasts all carried Leng Ruoxue's natal flames and were supported by her divine power. Hence, in terms of strength, they were on par with Leng Ruoxue. However, it took a lot of divine power to form these beasts. Hence, Leng Ruoxue kept pouring pills into her mouth as she watched the battle between them and the fog phoenix. Seeing this scene, Wu Yan was furious. Shameless. Leng Ruoxue was the real shameless one. Originally, Wu Yan had hoped that she could hold on for a long time, best if she could hold on until the other party's divine power was exhausted. At that time, she would laugh at her for overestimating her own ability. But who knew that the other party would actually eat medicinal pills? Wasn't this cheating? The furious Wu Chen lost his mind and roared, Damn it! You're cheating! Cheating? What a joke, do you think this is a competition? This is a life and death battle, so dear, don't joke around, okay? Leng Ruoxue was speechless. After being ridiculed by Leng Ruoxue like this, Wu Mo lost her focus for a moment. In an instant, half of her arm was bitten off by a fiery red tiger. At that moment, she was in so much pain that she almost fainted. Good job. Bite her. Bite her to death. The White Tiger King shouted at the top of its lungs. Idiot. Feng Wu couldn't help but roll his eyes at the White Tiger King. However, the White Tiger King didn't care about that. In any case, if the tiger conjured by its master succeeded, it would also be proud. A few of the divine strength beasts seemed to understand the White Tiger King's words. Their attacks became sharper and fiercer. Wu Xian, who had lost an arm, ate a healing pill and began to dodge left and right again. Now, she did not dare to attack easily except for defending. This nemesis strength was above her. As long as Wu Xiao thought of this, she couldn't help but go crazy. No. I can't go on like this. Otherwise, she would die. Wu Jing planned to find an opportunity to escape, but she finally found an opportunity. As soon as her body flew into the air, she was slapped down by a furry little paw. With a plop, she fell to the ground. You want to run? Azure smiled. No way. That demonic man and I have already sealed off the sky. You can have fun here. Rhyme glared at Sung with hatred, and the evildoer who had already guarded the other side of the sky waved to her with a smile. Seeing this scene, Rhyme was so angry that she spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. These people were really bullies. Fog was filled with grief and indignation. Since she couldn't escape, she wouldn't let these people humiliate her. In addition to being ruthless, the fog ice began to counterattack crazily. Countless vines flew in all directions, passing over the 8 beasts and heading straight for Uncle Long and the others. Uncle Long and the others saw this and shouted exaggeratedly, "Help!" Then, everyone split up and ran towards the direction of Azure and Evil. Chapter 2998, The End, 21. The 8 flaming beasts took the opportunity to burn the vines that had missed and continued to play with the fog ice. After a long time, Wu Wan had been tortured by the 8 beasts until she was exhausted. Her body was covered in wounds, and her arm had been bitten off many times. Her healing pills were almost exhausted. It could be said that Wu Wan was at an absolute disadvantage from the beginning of this battle. Could this be the advantage of the chaotic body? Mist Ripple was unwilling. Why didn't she have the chaotic body? She had done so many things and even killed the person she loved the most, yet she had not obtained the chaotic body. She did not manage to obtain the approval of the stupid bracelet and the silly cat, but Len Ruoxue had easily obtained all of this. Why? Why could Len Ruoxue do it? She had worked so hard for so long, but she could not get what she wanted. Before she died, Ripple Mist's eyes were filled with unwillingness. She glared at Len Ruoxue and questioned, "Why? Which part of you is better than me? Why does the heavens care so much about you? Why do you always get what I can't? Tell me the reason. If I don't tell you, will you die with your eyes wide open?" Len Ruoxue asked with a smile. "I will. Not only will I not die in peace, even if I become an evil ghost in the 9 nether underworld, I will not let you go." Rhyme howled, so angry that the veins on her forehead were popping out. At this moment, the demon said lightly, "My 9 nether prison doesn't welcome you." The demon's stab was really ruthless. Wu Yan was distracted at this life and death moment, and then one of her legs was bitten off by a tiger. Enduring the pain, Wu Yan's eyes were a little unfocused as she said, "How could I have forgotten that you're clinging onto the mistress of the dark world? Yup. It's a pity that there's no share for you, so you'd better think about where you can stay." Len Ruoxue smiled faintly. "I'm going to accompany you." Mist Ripple said softly, as if she had thought of something, her beautiful eyes somewhat dazed. "Master doesn't want to see you." Len Ruoxue said coldly. "No. He will want to see me." "I will." Wu Xian suddenly roared. "No, Master told me that the thing he regrets the most in his life is raising an ungrateful wolf." Len Ruoxue said as she glanced at the Mist Ripple. "I'm not an ungrateful person. I'm not. I just want to become stronger too much." Wu Xian retorted madly. "You want to become stronger so you have to kill my master?" Len Ruoxue asked. "I love him. I love him. Everything I've done is in hopes that he'll stay by my side obediently, but I'd rather die than do so." "Why? Why won't he listen to me?" Wu Xian asked Len Ruoxue agitatedly. "Because he doesn't love you." Len Ruoxue said, hitting the nail on the head. "No. He loves me. He will love me." Wu Yan said in a self-deceiving manner. "Thanks, if thinking this way will make you feel better, then please do as you please." Len Ruoxue knew that this woman was beyond saving and was in a state of extreme madness. She didn't want to waste any more words with her. With that, she charged towards Len Ruoxue. The cold shadow in Len Ruoxue's hand drew a perfect arc in the air, and the tip of the sword pierced into Ripple Mist's body. Following that, Ripple Mist fell limply to the ground, taking her last breath. She had died with her eyes wide open. The 8 flaming beasts saw that the fog had already breathed its last and quickly swarmed forward to destroy the corpse. This time, the miasma really disappeared without a trace. After Wu Han's death, Len Ruoxue naturally became the new lord of the firmament and was acknowledged by the laws of heaven and earth. Her god-lord residence was arranged by Len Ruoxue to be in Demon City, while the original imperial city still belonged to her master. The surviving forces from the god world also tactfully expressed their loyalty and support to Len Ruoxue. Len Ruoxue magnanimously forgave some people for their past actions. Then, she brought the evildoer along to fix the rules of heaven and earth. The regulations of the heaven and earth did not manage to escape in time and could only allow Leng Ruoxue to bully them. However, Leng Ruoxue did not go too far. After all, they were going to be colleagues in the future and it was only right for them to care for each other. After being loved by Leng Ruoxue, the laws of heaven and earth were no longer hiding. Instead, they openly appeared around Leng Ruoxue and the others. This made Mu Li suffer. As for the dragon, phoenix, and white tiger, they finally had the time to deal with the traitors of their three races. Leng Ruoxue pulled the evildoer to a secluded place and said with a serious and domineering expression, "Evildoer, marry me." The sudden surprise stunned the demon. After a long time, he finally reacted and asked weakly, "Shouldn't you be the one marrying me?" "Who said that?" "In my territory, you're the one marrying me." "I'll ask you one last time, are you going to marry or not?" Leng Ruoxue said in an overbearing manner. "I'll get married." The demon didn't hesitate at all. He had waited for so long and waited for this day with great difficulty. How could he refuse? That's why it wasn't a problem who married who. The most important thing was the title. He had finally obtained the status he had been looking forward to for a long time. Sob. The demon was so touched. After obtaining the approval of the demon, Leng Ruoxue could not wait to share the good news with everyone. When Leng Qingtian and Leng Ruhan heard this, they were not surprised at all and said as a matter of fact, "Shuer, you should have given her a status long ago." "That's right." Uncle Long and the others also joined in. "The Dark Lord has waited for a long time." Hearing their words, Leng Ruoxue immediately felt guilty. She looked at the evildoer with her beautiful eyes, full of regret. The evildoer returned Leng Ruoxue a consoling gaze. His heart was already blooming with joy. "Status, you are getting closer and closer to me." However, it wasn't easy to get past Sung and Green Vessel. Although the two of them had been mentally prepared for this day, when it really came, they still felt uncomfortable. Such a beautiful and fragrant girl, just like that, belonged to a stinky man. It was truly like a fresh flower stuck in cow dung. Unfortunately, no matter how much they argued, Leng Ruoxue would not change her mind. With the help of Uncle Long and the others, the wedding preparations were made rather quickly. However, the demon did not see Shuer in the past few days. According to Shuer, they had to rush a few sets of formal dresses for the two of them. Hearing Shuer's words, the evildoer's heart was filled with anticipation. However, the days without Shuer were really hard to bear. However, Shuer said that she wanted to give him a surprise, so he could only wait patiently. Sitting in the garden listlessly, the demon counted the days with his fingers. In 3 days, it would be his wedding day. Woo! He was so excited. Chapter 2999, The Final Ending, 22, However, these 3 days were also quite difficult to endure. The demon had definitely experienced what it meant to pass a day like a year. "Hey, evil man! Shuer is looking for you." Suddenly, Sung's voice sounded out from nowhere. Then, a small white cat appeared in the air and looked at the demon with a bitter face. "Where are you?" Although Azure's tone wasn't very good, the demon who was in a good mood wouldn't bother with it. "In the room." Sung's eyes' words were like gold. The demon went straight to his room after hearing this. Shuer was sitting on a chair, and when she saw him, she quickly said, "Evildoer, I have something to tell you." "What did Shuer want to tell me?" the demon asked with a tender expression. "What I want to say is, let's cancel the wedding," Leng Ruoxue suddenly said. "What did you just say?" The demon thought he had heard wrong. After a moment of shock, he looked at Shuer in disbelief. How could Shuer say such words to him? "I said, cancel our wedding. I don't want to marry you," Leng Ruoxue repeated. "Don't marry me." "It's fine, because I'm the one marrying you." The evil demon laughed before he rudely grabbed Leng Ruoxue's collar and questioned her with a dark expression. "Who are you? Why did you impersonate Shuer?" I am Len Ruoxue. Len Ruoxue said stubbornly. No. You're not. I thought you were joking with me, but when you said you didn't want to marry me, I was sure you weren't Shuer. The demon explained. Because Shuer wanted him to marry. Let me go. Seeing that she had been exposed, the fake Len Ruoxue started to get nervous. However, the demon would not let her off before he figured out her identity. The fake Len Ruoxue saw the demon's ferocious look and shouted at the top of her lungs, "Help! Molested!" Upon hearing this voice, almost everyone ran over. Seeing this scene, they were speechless. What the hell are you two doing? We're busy. She's not Shuer. The demon said helplessly. Not Shuer. Who was she then? How can she be exactly the same as Shuer? Even her temperament and aura are the same. How can there be two people in the world that are so similar? Everyone was amazed. They surrounded the fake Len Ruoxue and discussed for a long time, but they could not see how she was fake. Ruhan, is this really not your sister? After they were done looking at the fake Len Ruoxue, they asked Len Ruhan. This, Len Ruhan could not be sure anymore. Are you still not going to tell the truth? Who are you? How dare you pretend to be my woman, you must be tired of living. After listening to everyone's discussion, the evildoer questioned again, his dark starry eyes were full of warning. You are all bullies. Woo, sister, help. The fake Len Ruoxue couldn't stand the threat from the evil eyes and started to cry. Ruhan, she's calling for sister. Is she calling for Shuer? Dongfang, you couldn't help but ask. I don't know, Len Ruhan was very honest. What's wrong? At this moment, another beautiful woman appeared out of thin air in the room. Seeing another her, she was stunned for a moment, then helplessly shook her head and said, Qingju, you're so naughty. Why did you change into my appearance? Thanks, Green Vessel. A copy? Everyone was shocked. Sister. They're bullying me. Woo. The moment Qingju saw Len Ruoxue, he immediately broke free from the demon's control and threw himself into Len Ruoxue's arms. Looking at the two stunning beauties embracing each other as if there was no one else around, everyone felt strange no matter how they thought about it. The demon was burning with jealousy, he pulled Shuer over and hugged her, then complained, Shuer, Qingju has changed into your appearance and said that he wants to cancel the wedding. Everyone was shocked again and gave Green Vessel a look that said good luck to you. They thought to themselves, kid, you're so bold. He actually dared to tease the mistress of the dark world like this. He was simply courting death. Len Ruoxue felt a headache coming on as well. She looked at Qingju speechlessly. Qingju silently changed back to his child form and pouted his lips in grievance. I just wanted to test his loyalty to my sister. Bullshit. You're clearly trying to break us up. The demon cursed in anger. If it wasn't for Shuer, he would definitely teach this soul bastard a good lesson. However, this little incident that Qingju created did not affect the progress of Len Ruoxue and the demon's wedding. Furthermore, Len Ruoxue was clear about Qingju's motive and knew that he must have an accomplice. Otherwise, the innocent Qingju would not have been able to come up with such a strange idea. Of course, it went without saying that the accomplice was Tsang. On the day of the wedding, Len Ruoxue was dressed in a snow-white wedding dress, which made her look extremely beautiful and moving. Evildoer was dressed in a silver-gray, well-ironed western suit, which made the noble mistress of the dark world even more handsome and noble. Both of them were well-matched in terms of appearance and temperament. The gowns that they were wearing were specially tailored by Len Ruoxue. Hence, the moment they appeared, they instantly attracted everyone's attention. The wedding venue was filled with fresh flowers, and the wedding banquet was held in the form of a buffet. When Len Ruoxue moved the simplified modern wedding procedures to the divine realm, the two of them concluded the marriage contract under the witness of everyone with an extremely solemn soul loyalty oath. Although there was no such thing as marriage in the divine realm, a marriage bound by an oath was obviously more legally binding. From then on, the two souls were dependent on each other and would never leave each other. Their wedding was simple yet grand. After the lively wedding banquet that had lasted for 3 days ended, Uncle Long and the others were planning to make a scene in the nuptial chamber when they realized that the two newlywed couple had disappeared. Where was he? Uncle Long and the others were extremely disappointed. Sang and Qing Ju looked at each other and made a decision at the same time. At this moment, the demon and Leng Ruoxue were in the spatial tunnel, heading towards the unknown. Shuai, we've finally gotten rid of those third wheels. We can finally spend some alone time together. The demon was quite satisfied with his and Shuai's escape. This was a world of the two of them. There was no green vessel. There was no Tsang. Without those beastie who competed with him for his favor, he was really happy no matter how he thought about it. However, Leng Ruoxue wasn't as cocky as the demon. Based on her understanding of Tsang and green vessel, once they knew that they had gone missing, they would definitely come after them. It was only a matter of time before they found them. However, the two of them had just gotten married, and Leng Ruoxue was not willing to say anything that would make the demon depressed. Hence, she was very cooperative and said, "Yes, let's go for our honeymoon." Then, the two of them stepped out of the space tunnel together. Years later, the God world, which was once riddled with holes due to the battle between Wu Cheng and Leng Ruoxue, slowly recovered its former prosperity. The legends about Leng Ruoxue never stopped. Of course, the most widely spread was not because of her strength or her beauty, but her skills in controlling her husband. It was rumored that the mistress of the dark world would listen to the divine master. It was rumored that the mistress of the dark world was the #1 filial husband in the history of the divine realm. There were many more things like that. Chapter 3000, Honeymoon. Honey, you're awake. Leng Ruoxue had just opened her beautiful eyes when she saw an extremely handsome face in front of her. Even though it was not the first time they had shared a bed, but every time she saw the evildoer's beautiful face, she could not help but be mesmerized. This fellow had nothing to worry about now, especially when Tsang and the other beasts were not around to cause trouble for him. He was becoming more and more unscrupulous, thinking of all ways to seduce her. As long as it was a method that could be used, it could be said that the evildoer had used it all. Just as she thought of this, Leng Ruoxue was hugged even tighter by the fiery hot evildoer. "Demon, you're hugging me too tightly. Are you trying to strangle me to death?" Leng Ruoxue, who felt that she could not let him continue like this, deliberately complained in an unromantic manner. "Call me hubby." She had to call him hubby in the future. "Otherwise, I'll punish you." Hearing his incorrigible wife call him a demon again, a certain demon man was dissatisfied. He had told Shuai to call him hubby many times, but Shuai just couldn't remember. This made him extremely worried. However, as soon as he thought of the punishment he would use, his heart couldn't help but ripple. Perhaps Shuai just liked to be punished by him. Otherwise, how could he explain this little woman's unrepentant behavior? The demon secretly imagined this. When Leng Ruoxue saw his evil smile, she knew what he was thinking and quickly changed her words. "Hubby, you're hugging me too tightly. I can't breathe." Regret. He was so regretful that his intestines had turned green. Leng Ruoxue was speechless when she saw his expression. However, her heart ached for the man, so she tactfully coaxed him. After coaxing him for a long time and being forced to sign countless unfair contracts, the demon finally burst with joy. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue suddenly missed Azure and the rest. If Azure and the rest were around, the demon would never have the chance to be arrogant. What a pity. A single misstep would result in eternal hatred. It was too late to think about all this now. After recollecting her emotions, Leng Ruoxue washed up and pulled the unwilling evildoer out of the room. At this moment, the two of them were still on their honeymoon. However, for ordinary people, their honeymoon would be a little long, and the location of their honeymoon would be filled with countless uncertainties. This was because they were currently shuttling through different spaces. The space where the two of them had landed belonged to a star region with an early-stage civilization. The cultivation level there was very low, and there was no orthodox cultivation system. Many people who had just started to cultivate had special abilities that ordinary people did not have. They had almost no good cultivation methods. Of course, their strength was enough to use in that space. Unfortunately, their special abilities did not allow them to obtain the supreme position in that star region. At most, he would have an extra bodyguard job. Speaking of which, Leng Ruoxue felt depressed for those people. They were clearly cultivators, yet they could only be bodyguards for those with power and influence. However, they couldn't be blamed for this. Who asked that space to be a highly advanced civilization? There were all sorts of energy laser cannons and other weapons inside. To cultivators who didn't have proper cultivation methods, it was like an insurmountable mountain. It must be known that all kinds of advanced weapons, as long as there was energy, could be used endlessly. However, the special abilities that cultivators didn't have much energy in were often used up and needed a long time to recover. As a result, special abilities naturally became an existence of little value. In Leng Ruoxue's words, it was caused by a lack of spiritual energy. However, Leng Ruoxue had no intention of saving all the cultivators under the heavens chart. To her, she was merely a traveler in time and space. She was going there for a vacation. As long as no one provoked her, she would not meddle in other people's business. However, she was quite interested in the various high-tech things there. In her previous life, she had also lived in the era of technology. However, the world she lived in was obviously behind by a lot compared to the space she had been to not long ago. What made her curious was that if the technology of an elementary civilization in a star field could develop to such an amazing extent, how would the technology of an advanced civilization be like? The demon knew Shuai's thoughts very well. Therefore, at this moment, the two of them were heading to the nearest star field of an advanced civilization. Their mode of transportation was a spaceship from a low-leveled civilization star field. The captain was the demon's new servant, a despondent ability user in the eyes of the people from the high-tech star field. Speaking of which, when this person was being hunted down, it was the demon who took the initiative to save him. In the demon's words, the two of them were alone outside, so there were some things that naturally needed to be taken care of. Therefore, they saved this fallen ability user who was being chased. Stepping out of the room, he went to the dining room. The captain and servant, a middle-aged man, had already prepared a variety of hot meals. When he saw Leng Ruoxue and the demon, the middle-aged man quickly bowed, "Master, Madam, good morning." The demon nodded his head slightly. Leng Ruoxue, on the other hand, had some black lines on her face. It was getting late, right? However, after going through the demon and her short devilish training, Leng Ruoxue knew that this middle-aged man called Ji Kai could barely be considered a qualified servant. Thanks at the same time, it also confirmed Ji Kai's malleability. But in fact, the poor middle-aged man was completely forced to do so. His owner had said that if he couldn't learn how to cook these dishes, he would be refunded. For Ji Kai, who had finally managed to get close to a powerful man, the consequences were unimaginable. As the saying goes, with pressure comes motivation. Under such pressure, Ji Kai didn't eat or sleep, and he practiced his cooking skills day and night. Finally, he barely got Leng Ruoxue's approval and was allowed to stay. At the same time, he was also trained by the evildoer to be an obedient and well-behaved servant. Ji Kai was very tactful. Most of the time, he only pretended to be dead in his captain's room. He would only appear in the modified kitchen during mealtime. After he finished cooking for his master, he would immediately disappear. This action of his naturally made the demon very satisfied, so he was much more kind to Ji Kai. After all, it was rare to see such a sensible light bulb. When he thought of Ji Kai's performance, he couldn't help but think of those hateful people, Sung, who made him gnash his teeth. If only those people could be like Ji Kai. But this could only become his dream. After he greeted Leng Ruoxue and the demon, Ji Kai disappeared from their sight. The two of them sat down and looked at the table full of dishes. Leng Ruoxue felt a slight headache. Len Ruoshua looked at the evildoer with hidden bitterness and said, "This servant of yours, you're treating us like pigs. Is this a lot? Shuer, you're too skinny, you need to eat more." The evil demon laughed as he personally scooped a bowl of green bean porridge and placed it in front of Len Ruoshua. Looking at the piping hot green bean porridge in front of her, Len Ruoshua asked warily, "My dear husband, what is your unspeakable purpose in trying to fatten me up?" "Honey, I just wanted you to eat more because you're too thin. Why would I have any ulterior motives? You can't wrong me like this." Hearing this, the demon immediately felt wronged. In reality, did he dare to say that he wanted Shuer to be fatter so that fewer people would think about her? He didn't dare. If he really said that, who knew what Shuer would do in a fit of anger? He absolutely couldn't risk his own interests. "Did I wrong you?" Len Ruoshua squinted her beautiful eyes and said indifferently. "No, I didn't. My wife is the best, how could she wrong me?" The demon said hurriedly. "Then tell me the truth." Len Ruoshua would not be so easily fooled by this demon. "Fatter. It feels good." After thinking for a while, the demon said shyly. "You mean, I don't feel good now?" Raising her eyebrows, Len Ruoshua deliberately picked on him. "How can that be? I mean, it's better to be fatter. So, honey, don't worry and eat as much as you want." The evildoer encouraged with a face full of affection. Unfortunately, Len Ruoshua would not fall for his trick. After all, which woman did not like to be beautiful? Which woman would like to be fat? Therefore, she only had a bowl of porridge and a piece of exquisite white jade-like dessert before she said she was full. Although the demon was disappointed that his wife didn't eat much, he couldn't force Shuer to eat. After having breakfast, the two of them went to the living room and sat by the window to enjoy the scenery outside. At this time, the starry sky was a sea of blue. From time to time, extremely fast streamlined spaceships would flash in front of their eyes. However, the spaceships they were in were as slow as snails. However, the two of them were quite calm. Who asked them to have so much time? After flying for a long time, Ji Kai's voice finally reached his ears. "Master, Madam, we have arrived at the advanced civilization star field." When he said this, Ji Kai had already walked out of the driver's seat and stood beside the two of them respectfully. Upon hearing this, the demon only nodded and said, "Since we're here, let's go in." "Master, I don't have enough money," Ji Kai said with a red face. He was too incompetent as a servant. He had to trouble his master for such a small matter. Of course, the main reason was that he had never been to an advanced civilization star field before. He did not expect the cost of entering an advanced civilization star field to be so high, and it was calculated by the head. It could be said that the money he had saved up over the years was not even enough for half a person to enter. As the saying goes, a hero can't win a penny. Although he knew that he wasn't a hero, he was indeed stumped. At this moment, he was also afraid that his master would blame him for not doing a good job. He couldn't even do such a small thing well. It had to be said that Ji Kai had been taught well. It was obviously the demon who didn't give him a single cent, but at this moment, he completely took the responsibility of not having money on himself. In his mind, he really shouldn't trouble his master for such a small matter like money. Hearing Ji Kai mention that he did not have enough money, the demon turned to look at Len Ruoshua and said calmly, "We don't have any money either." Chapter 3001, Adapting to Local Conditions. The evildoer's words were so righteous that Len Ruoshua wanted to cover her face. However, the one who was the most shocked was Ji Kai. Of course, it was mainly because he admired his master too much. One should know that he was already over 50 years old and had seen many people with power and influence. However, he was definitely the first person who could say that he had no money as if it was a matter of fact like his master. At this moment, he even felt that his master was really too stylish. At least, the aristocrats he had seen were far from his master in terms of temperament and bearing. No. It should be said that it couldn't even be compared to a strand of master's hair. Thinking of this, Ji Kai's heart was suddenly filled with lofty aspirations. Such a master, no matter what, he had to hold on tightly to her thigh and never let go. However, without money, it would be difficult to move. Thinking of money, Ji Kai, who was full of pride, instantly felt down again. Feeling Ji Kai's emotions fluctuating, Len Ruoxue could probably guess what was going on. However, she was not worried at all. After all, they couldn't go everywhere to earn local money. To them, money was nothing, and they didn't need it. More importantly, she and the demon didn't need to follow any rules at all. Basically, the two of them could teleport to that space and swim there. It was a pity that she had a little guy with her now. She didn't want to lead him astray, in case he had a wrong world view. For a moment, Len Ruoxue was in a difficult position. After giving it some thought, she took out a top-grade fire-type crystal that had been absorbed and said, "This should be able to be exchanged for some money, right?" At this moment, the top-grade crystals of the fire attribute, which were originally full of spiritual energy, showed a different pink color from their original fiery red color because their spiritual energy had been absorbed. The crystal-clear crystals were clean and flawless, and unusually beautiful. Originally, these crystals could recover their spiritual energy after being slowly nurtured, but they had no money now. She could only take it out and use it. This piece of crystal could be made into a pretty good jewelry. When Ji Kai saw the beautiful pink crystal, his eyes widened in disbelief and he stuttered, "Diamond, diamond. It's a big diamond." Hearing what he said, Len Ruoxue immediately threw the crystal that had turned pink into Ji Kai's arms. Ji Kai was so scared that he quickly held it in his hands, afraid that it would fall to the ground and break. "Can this be sold for some money?" Len Ruoxue asked despite knowing the answer. "I can." He was too capable. But such a big diamond should be a family heirloom. Wouldn't it be a pity to sell it? Ji Kai said reluctantly. His eyes seemed to be glued to the pink crystal, unable to move away. A family heirloom? Len Ruoxue was stunned. She had never thought of this. "I'd better sell it." "Don't you need money?" Len Ruoxue was stunned for a moment before she replied. "Madam, such a large diamond is not something that ordinary rich and powerful people can afford. Therefore, we have to enter the star field of an advanced civilization to sell it for a good price. It would be a pity if we sell it back in the star field of an elementary civilization. In the star fields of primary civilizations, the highest price you can sell it for is 10 billion alliance dollars, but in the high-level star fields, it can be sold for 100 billion or more." Ji Kai said with a regretful expression. "I see." Len Ruoxue thought about the possibility of selling the crystal stones to an advanced civilization's star field. There would definitely be no obstacles for her and the demon to enter the star field of an advanced civilization, but she really did not want to lead a rule-abiding little guy astray. Of course, he was also afraid of scaring the little girl. After all, not everyone could get used to her behavior, which was similar to that of a bandit. Just as Len Ruoxue was hesitating, the demon nonchalantly spoke, "Shuer, why are you thinking so much? Let's just go in directly like before." Hearing this, Len Ruoxue couldn't help but glare at the evildoer. "Don't lead the child astray." Ji Kai, on the other hand, was clearly out of his mind. Ji Kai was thinking, what did the master mean by directly entering? It couldn't be what he was thinking, right? Sob. If they were discovered, they would be wanted by the entire alliance. Ji Kai was a little worried, but he had long realized that his master was not someone who would abide by the alliance's laws. What should he do? As a member of the alliance and having received many years of education from the alliance, Ji Kai was at a loss. "Master, how do we get in?" You may not know this, but the surveillance ability of the advanced civilizations is very strong. If we want to sneak in, we only have a 50% chance of entering, and once we are discovered, I'm afraid we will be in prison for a long time. After thinking for a while, Ji Kai, who had chosen to stand on his master's side, couldn't help but remind him. "What are you afraid of?" We've been staying in the star field of an elementary civilization for so long, but we haven't been discovered by anyone, have we? The demon said disapprovingly. Ugh. It turned out that the owner of that place was an unregistered resident. Ji Kai understood. After adjusting his state of mind, Ji Kai quickly entered the state of a servant and said honestly, Master, I know a special ability user who specializes in smuggling. Should I go and find him? After hearing Ji Kai's words, Leng Ruoxia's first reaction was that this child's values had been destroyed and he had been led astray. However, it's good to get used to it earlier. After that, she deliberately pointed at the crystal in Ji Kai's hand and said, You're not selling this? Madam, it's not worth it to sell it back in the star field of an elementary civilization. Therefore, I suggest that we find an auction house to sell this top-tier diamond after we enter the star field of an advanced civilization. Ji Kai said responsibly. What I mean is, we should enter the star field of an advanced civilization and sell it now. Leng Ruoxia replied honestly. Since this child already knew that they often smuggled themselves into the country, she naturally did not need to hide it anymore. Then I'll go find the stowaway organization immediately. Ji Kai quickly said. Thanks, I don't need it. You can also follow along and gain some experience. Leng Ruoxia glanced at the evildoer and smiled. Seeing his master and his wife floating in the starry sky, Ji Kai was so scared that his face turned pale. When he saw that he was in the same state, his legs started to tremble, and he wished he could just faint. At this moment, he suddenly realized that he was afraid of heights. If it wasn't for his master holding him, he dared to say that he would have fallen down. As Ji Kai's thoughts ran wild, Leng Ruoxia had already kept the flying ship. Then, the demon waved his hand and a pitch-black spatial tunnel appeared in front of the three of them like the mouth of a giant beast. Carrying Ji Kai, Leng Ruoxia and the demon walked in. When he got out of the space tunnel, Ji Kai had already fainted from fear. After Ji Kai woke up, Leng Ruoxia smiled and said, Ji Kai, your mental endurance is too weak. You need more training. Ji Kai wanted to cry. How could he be blamed? How could he have known that his master was even more powerful than he had imagined? At the same time, he also knew that his previous understanding of his master's strength was still too low. However, after this incident, he also knew that his master and madam were definitely omnipotent. Leng Ruoxia was speechless when she saw Ji Kai's silly smile. She kicked him lightly and asked, Where are we going now? Madam, we're illegal now. It's best to find a hidden place to hide. Otherwise, if we're discovered by the Alliance's law enforcement officers, we'll go to jail. When Ji Kai heard Leng Ruoxia's question, he quickly reminded her. I'm here to play, and you want me to hide? Leng Ruoxia was very dissatisfied with Ji Kai's cowardice and glanced at him indifferently. Ji Kai shivered and realized that his master and madam were not ordinary experts. He had thought that his master and madam were unrivaled. How did he put them into his world again after such a short time? This really shouldn't have happened. Ji Kai, who felt that he wasn't doing his job well, looked at Leng Ruoxia carefully and quickly said, Then let's go for a walk. Well, stay there if madam likes it, but, as he said this, Ji Kai stopped. You don't have any identification, do you? Leng Ruoxia said. Well, I don't have any money now. Ji Kai said honestly. It doesn't matter if you don't have an identity card. No one will check it anyway. As for the money, we don't need it. We're already here, aren't we? Hearing this, the demon didn't care. Master, this place is different from the star domains of the primary civilizations. No one would check them frequently there, but they would do so here. Besides, if we don't have money, we won't have the money to buy anything that madam likes. Ji Kai reminded. It's fine even if they investigate, they definitely won't be able to trace it back to us. If you don't have money, you don't have to worry. If my wife really likes something, do you still need to spend money to buy it? The demon said in a domineering manner. If he didn't buy it, was he going to rob it? Looking at his master's calm expression, Ji Kai truly felt that his idea was very possible. However, as a native of the Alliance star system, even though he already knew that his master and madam were extremely powerful, he couldn't be as calm as the two in front of him. As for Leng Ruoxue, she was a little desperate. Since the little guy in front of her already knew their temperament, there was no need for her to hide it. However, what do you mean by snatch? It also depended on the person. Leng Ruoxue didn't think that she was a real robber, so she preferred to make decisions according to the circumstances. Let's go. After some thought, Leng Ruoxue smiled. Madam, what should we do with this diamond? Before he left, Ji Kai couldn't help but ask. Looking at the owner's appearance, this diamond was probably not going to be sold. Didn't you say you were looking for an auction house? Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. It was good to have some money on hand. I'll start looking now. Hearing this, Ji Kai quickly tapped on the artificial intelligence on his wrist and said, Master, I've found it. The Black Rose Auction House is the largest auction house in the vast galaxy. It is also the most credible one. Then let's go to this one. Leng Ruoxue said nonchalantly. Don't you know how to check his identity? We're unregistered citizens. At this time, the demon asked with an evil smile. The auction house will keep the identity of the guests a secret, but we have to have an alliance account. Ji Kai said honestly. Don't you have it? Leng Ruoxue reminded, her meaning obvious. Mine is registered in the Beginner Alliance Starfield, Ji Kai said weakly. Although the accounts registered in each star field could be used in the Alliance, if he really used that account and attracted the attention of others, the consequences would be serious. Chapter 3002, You're too stupid, and you're making my wife unhappy. It was a pity that Leng Ruoxue didn't care about attracting attention. In fact, after breaking the pot, she felt that she should properly train this servant to remain calm. Otherwise, how could she always be so timid and afraid of wolves and tigers? Before, it was her fault. She only focused on training this little guy's cooking skills and abandoned his mentality. This time, she could use this opportunity to train Ji Kai. With this idea in mind, Leng Ruoxue did not leave any room for discussion. She instructed Ji Kai to be the representative, and the three of them headed to the Black Rose auction house together. After taking a few steps forward, Leng Ruoxue turned around and looked at Ji Kai, who was following behind them gloomily. Do you want to be a snail? Seeing the warning in Leng Ruoxue's eyes, Ji Kai quivered and quickly adjusted his state of mind. I'm sorry, madam. I was just thinking about something. What's there to think about? Since we're here, well, take things as they come. We don't know the way. Leng Ruoxue said impatiently. Yes. Madam, we need to take the public hovercar there. Ji Kai, who had come back to his senses, quickly said. That'll cost money, right? Leng Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and smiled. This subordinate still has this small amount of money. Ji Kai said like a nouveau riche. Then let's go. Leng Ruoxue said, giving him face. Sure, we don't have any identification. The demon reminded him again. Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but feel helpless when she heard this. This evildoer was too evil. He had actually reminded Ji Kai about this matter again. However, this time, Ji Kai wasn't afraid. Instead, he said calmly, Don't worry, master. The public hovercar doesn't require any identification. You can sit in it as long as you buy a ticket. Then what are we waiting for? Lead the way. Leng Ruoxue looked helplessly at the evil demon who had yet to succeed and said to Ji Kai. Madam, the nearest public floating station is just around the corner. It's very close. Ji Kai explained as he led the way. In less than 5 minutes, Leng Ruoxue saw a platform. The platform was tall and grand. The main body of the building was silver, and the walls seemed to be made of some kind of alloy. It gave off a very strong feeling. Ji Kai brought Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer to the waiting room after they stepped onto the platform. He then went to buy the tickets. Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer, who had been left behind, sat calmly on the chairs in the waiting room, accepting the crowd's gazes as if there was no one else around. Although it was said that in the high-tech star field, there were very few people who were too ugly. Unless they had a bad foundation, they could make themselves into a handsome man and a beautiful woman through scientific means. However, the looks of these two monsters had obviously exceeded the limits of human beings, and they were not aware of it. Feeling the crowd's cold gazes, the evildoer pulled Leng Ruoxue into his arms with a strong desire to possess her, declaring his sovereignty. After Ji Kai came back from buying the tickets, he realized that the atmosphere was very strange. He could clearly feel that the host was getting impatient, so he quickly left with the two. After they got on the streamlined public hover car, Leng Ruoxue was surprised to find that their seats were actually in a single room. She looked at Ji Kai in surprise and said, "This place must be worth a lot of money." "I didn't spend much." Ji Kai's face turned red and he quickly denied it. It had only cost him more than half of his savings. However, as soon as he thought of his master and madam's strength, he felt that he couldn't let them sit with ordinary civilians and be surrounded like before. That would make him feel uncomfortable. In addition, as a servant, he also felt very sorry for his master and his wife. Because he was short of money, he could not afford a personal hover car, so he could only take a public one with his master and his wife. Such a fact made him realize the importance of money. But what he didn't know was that the evildoer didn't think money was important at all. After Leng Ruoxue gave up on being a good example for Ji Kai, she didn't care about money anymore. However, since this was the little servant's good intentions, she still accepted it with a calm heart. After he sat down, the public hover car started to move slowly. However, the speed of the car was very slow, at least not comparable to the teleportation of the two. However, it was not bad to use as a sightseeing bus. Leng Ruoxue, who was always at ease, treated it as a sightseeing tour, while the demon couldn't help but blame Ji Kai for wasting money. But seeing that Shuer was happy, he naturally wouldn't say this. An hour later, they arrived at the station. The three of them alighted from the public hover car and walked a few more steps. Leng Ruoxue saw a huge black rose-shaped building in front of her eyes. Needless to say, this was the largest and best black rose auction house in the vast expanse star field. After entering the auction house, the service staff learned the purpose of their visit and invited the three of them to the reception room in a very well-practiced manner. When he saw what Ji Kai wanted to auction, the receptionist's expression changed drastically. This was clearly not something he could handle. After bidding Leng Ruoxue and the other two goodbye, the receptionist left the guest room. Not long after, a stunning beauty in a black business suit and 10-centimeter high heels appeared in the reception room. Thanks when she saw Leng Ruoxue, the bowtie's eyes also flashed with a trace of surprise, but she quickly hid it and said to Ji Kai with a smile, "Is your excellency going to auction off a top-grade diamond?" "It is." Ji Kai nodded. "Imhei Mei, the manager of the Black Rose auction house. May I know who these two are?" After the beauty introduced herself, she pretended to ask about Leng Ruoxue and the demon nonchalantly. "It doesn't matter who we are, hurry up and go through the procedures. We still have things to do." Before Ji Kai could answer, the evildoer urged impatiently. "I thought your Black Rose auction house wouldn't pry into a guest's privacy." Leng Ruoxue chuckled when she heard the demon's words. To cooperate with his master and his wife, Ji Kai added with a hint of displeasure on his face, "That's right. It's not convenient for us to reveal our identities. More importantly, it's precisely because we know that the Black Rose auction house has this rule that we're here. If Miss Hei Mei wants to break the rules, then we can only go to another auction house. The three of you have misunderstood. I just want to know the names of the three of you. This will make it easier to communicate, right?" Hei Mei, who was stifled by the words of the three people, gritted her teeth and said, "How detestable. Did the three of them know the status of the Hei family in the vast star area? And for her, Hei Mei, to be able to become a high-level member of the Black Rose auction house, her status in the Hei family must not be ordinary. But these three people in front of her actually did not give her any face. This made her originally fiery heart instantly feel as if a bucket of ice water had been poured on it, turning it cold. However, as the young lady of the Hei family, she was naturally flexible. So, she quickly adjusted her depressed mood and put on a professional smile. Since the three of you are in a hurry, I'll go through the procedures immediately after I've confirmed it.
We're in trouble.
Leng Ruoxue laughed. Hei Mei suppressed the discomfort in her heart and carefully inspected the top-grade diamond. After confirming that there were no mistakes, she did as she had said and quickly completed the procedures for Leng Ruoxue and the other two. With the contract in hand, Leng Ruoxue and the other two left the Black Rose auction house. Hei Mei looked at Ji Kai's name on the contract and knew that it was the middle-aged man's name. As for the two outstanding men and women who she didn't know, she would find out their identities sooner or later. After leaving the Black Rose auction house, the three of them strolled around the streets. All of a sudden, Leng Ruoxue stopped in her tracks. With a flash of her figure, she made a grabbing motion in the distance. There was already a man in her hand.
Who are you?
Ji Kai looked at the man and shouted. He didn't expect that he would be targeted as soon as he arrived in the vast star area. The man was so frightened by the fiendish Ji Kai that he stuttered. However, he was not afraid of Leng Ruoxue. After all, that woman had only captured him. He's from the Black Rose auction house. Leng Ruoxue did not wait for the man to take the initiative to confess and laughed coldly. The man originally wanted to say that he wasn't he, but when he saw the unkind expression on the woman's face, he couldn't say anything to refute. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue continued, "Go back and tell your master not to have any thoughts he shouldn't have. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." With that, Leng Ruoxue had a change of mind and disappeared from the man's sight with the demon and Ji Kai. Seeing the living person in front of him disappear in an instant, the man was so scared that his face turned pale.
How did it disappear?
The man was afraid, and his body trembled like a fallen leaf in the autumn wind. What they didn't know was that someone had already taken a picture of Leng Ruoxue and the other two's instant disappearance and posted it on the internet, causing a huge commotion. At the same time, after Leng Ruoxue's divine sense had searched, she chose a cliff as a temporary foothold. The cliff faced the sea and had a vast view. Leng Ruoxue was very satisfied with this place. After setting up the portable house on the cliff, Leng Ruoxue planned to return to her room. However, she was stopped by Ji Kai, who had gathered his courage. Ji Kai, who felt that his wife was in a bad mood, carefully reminded her, "Madam, we don't have the right to use the land here. We can't build houses here.
Do you think him shall buy?
Do you think I don't know that camping doesn't require land use rights?" Looking at Ji Kai coldly, Leng Ruoxue's voice was threatening. Ji Kai was a bit confused. Of course, he knew that camping didn't require land use rights. But was this considered camping? However, seeing his wife's unfriendly expression, he didn't dare to say this. After Leng Ruoxue finished her words, she left Ji Kai and the demon behind and entered the house. "Master, why did you make Madam angry?" Calming himself down, Ji Kai carefully turned around and couldn't help but ask the demon. "Are you sure it's me? Didn't you make my wife unhappy because you're too stupid?" He raised his eyebrows and said calmly, but in fact, he was very nervous and his heart was trembling. He wasn't an idiot, how could he not feel Shui-er's unspeakable anger? Chapter 3003, "Madam, can we not be so rough?" When Ji Kai heard his master's words, his first thought was that he had been wronged. All in all, he was quite self-aware. He knew that Madam would not be angry because of a lowly servant like him. If it was someone who could make Madam angry, there was no second person other than the evil master. However, although Ji Kai thought this way, he didn't dare to say it out loud, or else his master would be furious. Therefore, he could only accept his fate and take the blame. The demon, who was also depressed in his heart, also went after his wife after giving Ji Kai a light glance. When he reached the room, the demon saw that Leng Ruoxue was already lying on the bed. Without thinking, he climbed onto the bed as well. However, the next moment, a snow-white leg appeared in front of his eyes. Then, he heard a plop sound and was kicked off the bed by that beautiful leg. "Honey! You're bullying me." The wronged evildoer's pitch-black eyes started to water up as he looked at Leng Ruoxue pitifully. "Humph." Leng Ruoxue snorted coldly and turned her head away. It was obvious that she was angry. "My dear wife. Don't be like this." When the demon saw this, he carefully and slowly climbed back onto the bed and sat by the side. Seeing that Shuai was not angry, he immediately stretched out his long arms and wanted to pull Shuai into his arms. Unfortunately, Leng Ruoxue did not show any kind of expression and roared, "Go away. PNDNO1. Let me go." Leng Ruoxue's beautiful little face was flushed red with anger. However, how could the demon let go of her? He immediately planted a wolf's kiss on that alluring pink little mouth. At this moment, Ji Kai, who was already sitting in the living room, felt relieved when he saw that there were no loud sounds coming from upstairs. Looking at the way Master and Madam got along, they were becoming more and more like an ordinary couple. This was not bad. Relieved, Ji Kai opened the Star Network with nothing to do. Suddenly, a message in red entered his eyes, and he couldn't help but widen his eyes. The title of the news was very sensational, with the words "Where did the goddess go?" Next to the title, there was a picture. Although it was a little blurry, Ji Kai could still recognize that the woman in the picture was his wife. With trembling hands, he opened the message. The general idea of the news was that an eyewitness had accidentally seen 3 living people disappear before his eyes. In order to prove the accuracy of the news, a short video was uploaded at the bottom of the news. After seeing this, Ji Kai was already covered in cold sweat. To the atheist major star systems, disappearing for no reason was simply unimaginable. And the disappearance of the 3 of them would also give the people in power a feeling that someone or something was out of control. As a result, they were in great danger here. Although he didn't know who had posted this scene on the interplanetary network, Ji Kai had already automatically blamed the Black Rose auction house for everything. The person who had followed them was the most suspicious. When he thought of this, Ji Kai was very angry. As a native of the star field, he was very clear what kind of trouble this would bring to the 3 of them. Although he was anxious to report this matter to his master and his wife, he remembered that this young couple was having an argument before. Perhaps they were at a critical moment in solving some problem, so Ji Kai didn't dare to disturb them. They waited anxiously until the afternoon of the second day. Leng Ruoxue and the demon finally walked out of their room. When he saw the madam's ashen face and the master's radiant face, Ji Kai suddenly didn't know how to say the words he had accumulated for the whole night. Looking at madam's appearance, she was obviously at a disadvantage. Should he be so insensible as to ask for a beating at this time? One had to know that the madam might not beat up her master, but she would definitely not show mercy to a dispensable servant like him. After hesitating for a while, Ji Kai did not dare to speak. Leng Ruoxue was very sharp and could feel that this little servant seemed to have something that was difficult to say. She then said in a very understanding manner, "If you have something to say, then say it. If you don't say it, people might think I'm bullying you. Madam, can we not be so rough?" Ji Kai was silent for a while before he made up his mind and said, "Madam, the moment we suddenly disappeared yesterday, someone discovered and recorded it. Right now, that video's views on the Star Network have already reached several billion, and it's still increasing at an extremely fast rate. Are you saying that we're on fire?" Leng Ruoxue said calmly. "Yes. He's furious." Ji Kai didn't expect his wife to be so calm. He couldn't help but admire her. Ji Kai glanced at his confused master, who was obviously not in the right state, and was speechless. Looking at his master's expression, it seemed like he didn't understand what he meant. Otherwise, why would he be in such a state? In fact, he was overthinking it. It wasn't that the demon didn't understand, he just didn't care. Show me the video. Leng Ruoxue said. When Ji Kai heard this, he quickly handed over the video. Thanks. After Leng Ruoxue finished reading, she said with slight dissatisfaction, "Who took this? The picture quality is so bad, and it only captured my side profile. Ji Kai, you seem to be more popular than me. Look, you're facing me from the front." One had to know that a woman who was so beautiful just by looking at her side profile was definitely a rare beauty that could topple cities. Otherwise, how could it have attracted the great interest and enthusiasm of the netizens of the entire star field? Now, the internet was filled with strong voices of search for the goddess. Madam was already extremely popular. "Madam, what should we do now?" After a moment of silence, Ji Kai asked again. "Cold mix." Leng Ruoxue said lightly. "Madam, please don't do this." He couldn't just leave this matter as it was. More importantly, the faces of the three of them, especially his, could no longer be hidden. He didn't want to be surrounded by a crowd of onlookers wherever he went. Which one was too painful? Of course, the most important thing was that they might attract the attention of those in power, which was the most fatal. After he told his master and his wife about his worries, the two of them didn't seem to take it seriously as he had expected. Leng Ruoxue even asked for a meal directly, which made Ji Kai want to go crazy. However, as a qualified servant, he still dutifully served the prepared lunch. After the meal, seeing that his master and madam had no intention of talking about this matter, Ji Kai was deeply worried. In the end, it was Leng Ruoxue who couldn't stand it anymore and said to Ji Kai, "Your worry is completely unnecessary. If someone really dares to provoke us, they will be the unlucky ones. Go do what you need to do. Don't be an eyesore here." The evildoer began to drive them away. Hearing this, Ji Kai knew that he was worrying too much, so he dragged his heavy steps and went back to his room. "AI. Your servant still needs more training. How can you be so restless when you're in trouble?" Leng Ruoxue said helplessly as she watched Ji Kai's back. "Honey, don't worry about him. You should care about me more." Seeing that Shuai'er's attention was on another man, the evil demon was burning with jealousy. "How do you want me to care about you?" Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but smile evilly when she saw the demon coming to her. "Ah. It's only right for a husband to care about his wife, so I'll be the one to care for you." The vigilant evildoer immediately changed his words when he heard Shuai'er's words. Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but laugh. When the demon saw this, he immediately seized the opportunity and moved closer to Leng Ruoxue. Like a puppy, he said, "My dear wife, let's go out for a walk." "Yes, it's approved." Leng Ruoxue nodded, and the two of them disappeared. In half a month's time, the two of them had explored the entire vast expanse star field. To Leng Ruoxue, even though the technology here was very advanced, it was not the world she had once lived in. Hence, even though she was very interested in this place, Leng Ruoxue did not intend to stay here for too long. After wandering around for half a month, the premium crystal that they had sent to the Black Rose auction house had officially entered the auction process after more than 10 days of enthusiastic publicity. On the day of the auction, Leng Ruoxue and the demon did not plan to attend. The one representing them was naturally Ji Kai. In fact, after the tracking incident, Ji Kai didn't really want to go to the Black Rose auction house anymore, but Hei Mei had personally sent a message and asked them to attend. In Hei Mei's words, the owner must be present for such an important auction. Unfortunately, Leng Ruoxue scoffed at her words. However, she still let Ji Kai represent her and the evildoer. Ji Kai didn't understand why his wife wanted him to go. The auction house didn't have such a rule. Did she really think he didn't know? And Hei Mei obviously had other intentions by doing this. After he voiced out his doubts to Madame, Leng Ruoxue told him that this was called heading towards the Tiger Mountain despite knowing that there was a tiger on it. If he didn't go, how would he know what Hei Mei was up to? Actually, Leng Ruoxue didn't need to think to know what Hei Mei was thinking. However, she treated this mission as a trial for Ji Kai. Thus, she would definitely agree for him to come. A few hours after Ji Kai left the house, Lin Ruoxue and the demon received a message from Ji Kai asking for help. Master, Madam, I think I'm being followed again. Upon receiving the message, Lin Ruoxue and the demon did not take it to heart. They only asked, did you bring the money back? I've brought it back, Ji Kai said honestly. Then why are you still hanging around outside? Go home quickly, be careful of being robbed. The demon reminded. Not coming to pick him up. Hearing this, Ji Kai wanted to cry but had no tears. But at the same time, he thought that his master and his wife probably didn't care that he was being followed, so he didn't take those people in circles anymore and directly went home. The next day, before Lin Ruoxue and the demon had even woken up, an uninvited guest arrived at their house. Looking at the beautiful woman standing outside the door, Ji Kai felt a headache. How impatient must the other party be for him to enter the hall so quickly? Miss He, didn't you directly deduct the handling fee? Ji Kai frowned. In other words, he was saying that he didn't owe them money. Ji Kai's words made He Mai's mouth twitch. However, she knew that her actions were a bit rude, so she could only say, I'm here to pay a visit. Chapter 3004, Madam is definitely not to be trifled with. Visit, my ass. Hearing this, Ji Kai couldn't help but show a trace of contempt in his eyes. Even if he was slow to react, he could tell that this woman had ulterior motives. Unfortunately, her plan was doomed to fail. After all, not everyone could plot against her master. Most importantly, Madam was not to be trifled with. Although he had never been clear about how strong his master and Madam were, just based on Madam's ability to disappear in an instant, the woman in front of him would not be able to catch up even if she flew the latest spaceship. When he thought about this, Ji Kai revealed a warm smile. I'm sorry, Miss He, my master and Madam are still not awake. You're still not awake? Ji Kai's words made He Mei a little unhappy. It's Miss He who came too early. Ji Kai looked at the sky and reminded him calmly. In fact, at this moment, he somewhat looked down on this Miss He. As long as it was a noble with a bit of status, how could they not even greet others when they wanted to visit? And he even ran over so early in the morning? This kind of action was really too rude. Moreover, Master and Madam didn't reveal that they wanted to keep in touch with her. He had come running to their door, which was really disdainful. Also, without Madam's permission, he didn't dare to let this woman in. Otherwise, he would be the one in trouble. Wait. Did you just say Master and Madam? Who are they? Ji Kai, who was thinking about whether He Mei would leave on her own, suddenly heard He Mai's panicked voice. He raised his head and looked at her in confusion. Haven't you already seen it? You mean that young man and woman? He Mei shouted in disbelief. Not bad. It's them. Ji Kai did not intend to hide the relationship between his master and his wife, so he admitted it without hesitation. However, when He Mei heard this news, it was like the end of the world. Her face instantly darkened and she said, Impossible. This was impossible. You're lying to me. Miss He, do I need to lie to you? Ji Kai was speechless. He thought, Miss He, you can't live in your own world. Hurry up and open your eyes. I understand. He Mei, who had been panicking for a while, suddenly calmed down and smiled. That woman is his concubine, right? Ji Kai was very depressed. Yes, your head. Now, he was sure that this woman was sick. He's quite sick. Miss He, if you're sick, you must be treated. Ji Kai, who had almost gone crazy from He Mai's self-righteousness, reminded her with a heavy heart. Is that woman sick? What illness? Do you need me to introduce her to a good doctor? He Mei suddenly said worriedly after hearing what Ji Kai said. Hearing this, Ji Kai was a bit confused. He thought, I was talking about you. Ji Kai realized that he couldn't communicate with He Mei. He took a few deep breaths and forced himself to calm down. Then, he said, "Thank you, Miss Hay, but I don't need it. Goodbye, goodbye." Then, Ji Kai slammed the door in front of Hei Mei. Hei Mei, who had been rejected outside the door, saw this scene and her face immediately turned black. After glaring at the door a few times, Hei Mei chose to leave unwillingly. Humph. She would come again. In the room, Leng Ruoxue and the demon were cuddling together. They had seen everything that had happened outside the door through the light screen. Leng Ruoxue raised her head and glanced at the evildoer. She then asked with a half-smile, "I only found out today that I'm only your concubine. I wonder who the principal wife is?" "My dear wife, you're also my official wife. Wife, lover, whatever, it's all you." The evildoer looked at Leng Ruoxue pitifully and tried to please her. The only thing he could pray for now was that his wife would not blame him for the things that the lunatic had done. He felt so wronged. "All right. You fatale," Leng Ruoxue said helplessly when she felt the evildoer's uneasiness. "My dear wife, I'm innocent." The demon blinked his dark, starry eyes as he leaned in front of Leng Ruoxue and spoke pitifully. "Yes, it's the damn woman who has designs on you." Leng Ruoxue nodded in agreement. "There's also a man who's interested in you," the demon added. After saying this, the two of them sighed at the same time and decided to turn the page. After all, they couldn't destroy their own appearance just because others coveted it, right? Why did they have to suffer because of others? The two of them had a reckless personality in their bones. Coupled with their own status, they didn't need to be at the mercy of others. As for those who did not know their own limitations, Leng Ruoxue and the demon also felt that they could treat them as little behind-the-scenes highlights in their lives. After all, life could be quite monotonous at times, right? According to their unspoken thoughts, as long as someone didn't touch their bottom line, they wouldn't make a move on those mortals. Of course, the premise was that some people really knew their own limitations. The next day at noon, Leng Ruoxue and the demon had just finished their lunch when Hei Mei came to visit again. This time, she didn't come alone. There were a few young men with unknown identities by her side. Thanks. After knowing that Hei Mei was here again, Ji Kai first showed a constipated expression. He really didn't want to face this woman. As soon as she entered the living room, Hei Mei complained, "This door of your house is really hard to enter." "Yes, our family has never welcomed uninvited guests." Leng Ruoxue nodded her head seriously. The evildoer beside her had a cold and noble expression, as if he did not welcome strangers. Hei Mei saw that the evildoer was hugging Leng Ruoxue with one hand and felt uncomfortable. Hei Mei was burning with jealousy. Leng Ruoxue, on the other hand, was very calm. She asked, "Miss Hei has come to visit, is there something you need?" "Ji Kai, did you not pay the handling fee for the auction?" "Madam, I've already paid the administration fee." Ji Kai held back his laughter and replied seriously, "I'm not here for the commission." Hearing this, Hei Mei quickly explained, but she was a little dissatisfied in her heart. Did she look like she was here to ask for a debt? Then why? Leng Ruoxue was confused. "I heard that madam is sick, so I came to visit," Hei Mei said with a sincere expression. Then, she pulled Leng Ruoxue's hand enthusiastically and smiled, "You see, we're already so familiar with each other, but I still don't know your name." "My surname is Leng." "Who's close to you?" Leng Ruoxue retracted her hand without a sound and asked, "Miss Hei, where did you hear that I was sick?" "I heard it from Ji Kai." "Miss Leng, I actually came to visit you yesterday, but unfortunately, your subordinate refused to let me in. I think it's better not to use such a subordinate who makes decisions on his own. Be careful of the servant bullying the master," Hei Mei said worriedly. Was he complaining? Leng Ruoxue turned her head and glanced at Ji Kai, whose face was red with anger. In her heart, she lit a candle for Hei Mei's intelligence. Was this woman really the business elite she had seen before? Was he switched? Otherwise, how could he say such brainless words? Seeing that Leng Ruoxue was silent, Hei Mei thought that she had succeeded in instigating them. She then pointed at the men beside her and said, "They are the doctors I found for you. There are neurologists, cardiologists, gynecologists, and so on. They are all authoritative figures in the medical world. So, no matter where you are sick, they will try their best to cure you. All the expenses will be on me." He was really generous. Leng Ruoxue was speechless. The demon did not say a word. Meanwhile, Ji Kai was already looking up at the sky. As for Hei Mei's ability to understand and her self-righteousness, he had no more energy to ridicule her. He only hoped that Madame would quickly take care of this eyesore and return peace to the world. Otherwise, he would go crazy. At this moment, when they saw Leng Ruoxue and the evil demon, they immediately recognized them as the three people who were currently extremely popular on the internet. The few doctors who were prepared to be wallflowers could only take out their business cards and hand them to Leng Ruoxue and the evil demon. They were not as blind as Hei Mei. Although the woman in front of them was extremely beautiful, and they were stunned for a long time when they first saw her, the man beside her was obviously not to be trifled with. The doctors who knew their own limitations would definitely not dare to have any ill thoughts about Leng Ruoxue, much less think that she was sick like Hei Mei. The one who's sick is Hei Mei, right? The doctors who had finished the test decided not to get involved in this mess. You guys can do whatever you want. They wanted to retreat. However, they also knew that Hei Mei had spent a lot of money to invite them over. She would not allow them to leave easily. More importantly, they had signed a contract with Hei Mei. If they left just like that, they would have to pay a lot of money. When they thought of this, they could only throw Leng Ruoxue and the demon an "I'm innocent" look and continue to act like they were invisible. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue was very satisfied. These doctors were obviously not from the same country as Hei Mei. This was very good. Seeing how Leng Ruoxue's reaction had been very calm after she had told her about the doctors, Hei Mei was afraid that she would reject her and added, "Miss Leng, please don't reject my good intentions. In fact, I think that you look very much like my sister. That sister of mine died of a terminal illness back then. I don't want you to be like her, so please accept the treatment. Only when you're cured can you stay by your loved one's side forever, right?" Although Hei Mei said that, she couldn't wait for Leng Ruoxue to die. That way, she would be able to enjoy the fruits of Leng Ruoxue's labor without any effort. When Leng Ruoxue heard these words, she was speechless in her heart. However, on the surface, she was still moved to tears and said with a slightly choked voice, "Our backgrounds are too similar. I also have a younger sister who died of a strange illness. He's about the same age as you, and he looks quite similar." After she said this, Ji Kai and the other doctors' mouths all twitched. What was this? Deep sisterly love? Did he have to be so hypocritical? When Hei Mei heard this, she was also very unhappy. "You bastard!" He was clearly pointing at the mulberry and scolding the locust. However, she would not be calculative with a dying person. Hei Mei, who felt that she was very magnanimous, also wiped her tears and said, "Miss Leng, you can treat her in peace. I'll come to see you in a few days. If she didn't leave now, she would die of anger. Take care, I won't send you off." Leng Ruoxue smiled. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue had no intention of keeping her, Hei Mei could only suppress her anger and leave. She asked the doctors to stay. After Hei Mei left, Leng Ruoxue looked at the doctors who were a little uneasy and asked with a smile, "How are you going to treat me?" Chapter 3005, What's the Structure of the Brain? 1. When the doctors, who were already very uneasy, heard this, they were so scared that their hearts began to tremble. How could they treat it? Not to mention that the other party was still alive and kicking, even if he was really sick, they didn't dare to treat him easily based on his imposing manner. Moreover, they were not personally invited by the couple, but by that idiot Hei Mei. As such, they were even more nervous. If they had known that they were here to treat the woman in the video, they would have considered the pros and cons. But now, it was all too late. A few doctors looked at each other in dismay. In the end, they all focused their eyes on the same person, and their meaning was self-evident. The poor doctor who was sent as a representative sighed softly and helplessly. As the saying goes, a doctor must have the heart of a parent. Although we were invited by Miss Hay Mei, if Miss Leng is fine, we will not treat you recklessly. Please rest assured about this. You mean you want to give me a checkup? Blinking her eyes, Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. No, no. I mean, Miss Leng is not sick at all. The doctor's forehead was covered in sweat. He quickly explained, then wiped his sweat and continued, but we have signed a contract with Miss Hay Mei. If we say that nothing happened to you, she probably won't believe us. She might even find someone else, so, the doctor didn't know what to say next, but Leng Ruoxue understood in a second. She said considerately, you mean you're going to stay and pretend to treat me? This is to reduce the trouble between us. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue understood, the doctor heaved a sigh of relief. That sounds reasonable. Since you want to stay, then you have to pay for your food and lodging. After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, she pulled the demon back to her room. Once the two gods, Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer, left, the doctors on the scene let out a sigh of relief. It was Ji Kai's turn. Ji Kai laughed like a hunter who had just met a fat sheep. Madam said that you'll take care of your own food and lodging. Do you want to stay in our guest room or set up your own tent outside? Setting up a tent. They had never thought of it. The main reason was that it was too unsafe here. It was on the edge of a cliff, and below it was the bottomless sea. There were also many terrifying beasts in the nearby mountains. If they really lived outside, they were afraid that they would become the food of those beasts in less than a night. Just thinking about it was terrifying. But when they thought of this, they couldn't help but admire the courage of these three people. To dare to choose this place as their base camp, how bold must they be? After they thought about this, the doctors present nodded in unison and said, we want to live here. All right, 1 million alliance dollars for a day's accommodation. Hearing this, Ji Kai was happy and didn't forget to ask for a lot. However, he didn't feel like he was asking for too much. He felt that 1 million alliance dollars for a day's accommodation was too little. However, when the doctors present heard the amount, their expressions changed like a palette. They were obviously shocked. 1 million alliance dollars a day. That was like slaughtering a fat sheep. Even the best suite in a 7-star hotel in the vast space zone was not worth that much. However, looking at the butler's expression, he probably had no choice but to hand it over. But if they handed it over, their hearts would really hurt. Ji Kai saw through these doctors' thoughts and understood them. With his price, even if the big boss of the alliance came, he would be so distressed that he would vomit blood. Therefore, he kindly suggested, weren't you invited by Miss Hay? What, she's not going to pay for your food and accommodation? Hearing this, all the doctors looked at Ji Kai with bright eyes. Seeing that they had understood, Ji Kai reminded them, you can contact Miss Hay and listen to her opinion. Thanks, it doesn't include meals. When the doctors heard this, their eyes widened, and they looked completely lost and innocent. 4 million a day for a meal. Ji Kai ignored everyone's expressions and said straightforwardly. It was 4 times the room fee. The doctors really wanted to ask, what kind of food is your family eating that is so expensive? I can eat nutrient fluids. After a long silence, one of the doctors carefully opened his mouth. Are you sure? We have authentic, pure green vegetables at home. Ji Kai tempted. A pure green vegetable. These few words made the doctors present reveal expressions of disbelief. One must know that pure green vegetables were only something of legend to the people of many star regions. Even though their technology was highly advanced, it was because of this that the role of the land was neglected. Therefore, many vegetables could no longer survive on the land, and vegetables cultivated with culture fluid definitely did not have a pure green taste. Occasionally, there would be 1 or 2 kinds of vegetables that had strong survival abilities and could take root in the land. Ordinary nobles basically had no chance to taste them, so one could imagine how attractive these almost extinct pure green vegetables were to them. However, the doctors were still skeptical about Ji Kai's words. After all, pure green vegetables were too delicate, and it was not easy to grow them. Ji Kai knew that they wouldn't believe him so easily, so he didn't get angry. He took out a fresh cucumber with a flower on top and thorns from the storage ring his wife had given him and said, 100,000, who wants to try it? This was money-minded. However, this cucumber was really worth the money. The doctor who was closest to Ji Kai snatched the cucumber from Ji Kai's hand and said, accounting. Ask for it from Miss Hei Mei. No problem. Ji Kai smiled and nodded. The doctor couldn't wait any longer and started to eat the cucumber without caring about his image. Delicious. It's so delicious. The doctor said as he ate. Then eat more, I have more. Ji Kai said like a rich man. At this time, the other doctors, who couldn't stand the smell of the cucumber, also took a cucumber from Ji Kai and ate it. They were not afraid since it was just an accounting. However, without realizing it, they took another one after they finished one. It was only until their stomachs were full and they could no longer eat that the doctors reluctantly stopped. Seeing that they were so full that they couldn't move, Ji Kai couldn't help but look down on them. How embarrassing. It's just a cucumber. Why did he have to eat like this? At this moment, Ji Kai had long forgotten that when he first saw these pure green vegetables, he was just like these doctors. Chapter 3006, What's the Structure of the Brain? 2. The doctors who had their fill felt satisfied. This time, without Ji Kai's urging, they took the initiative to contact Hei Mei. After explaining the whole story to Hei Mei almost fainted from the huge food and accommodation fees. However, she gritted her teeth and held on. She said hatefully, you guys just stay there and treat her illness, I'll pay for the food and lodging. The doctors were very satisfied with Hei Mei's generosity, but Ji Kai still asked Hei Mei to hand in a star sector contract and stated that he didn't trust her. Hei Mei was so angry that she almost vomited blood, but she still held back her grievances and sent the contract to Ji Kai. After receiving the contract, the doctors finally settled down. After staying and eating well at Leng Ruoxiu's place for a few days, the doctors were so happy that they forgot about home. These few days of life were like the days of a god. After a few days of leisure, the doctors suddenly remembered that their family seemed to be very interested in these three people, and they were now living with these three people who had become popular recently. They should let their family know about this news. The doctors who were about to send the news back to the family realized that the message had failed just as they were about to send it. Just as he was feeling puzzled, Ji Kai floated out from a corner and said, What, you want to tip off the family? I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that after you contacted Hei Mei, my master and madam blocked the internet here. After saying this, Ji Kai floated away again, leaving behind a few dumbfounded doctors who had constipated expressions. This scene naturally could not be hidden from Leng Ruoxiu and the demon, who had their doors shut in the room. The two of them were laughing very happily. Ji Kai has also become bad. Leng Ruoxiu praised after she was done laughing. Shuer, how long are you going to keep them? I hate having these third wheels in the house. The demon hugged Leng Ruoxiu and said unhappily. Don't you think it's very lively? Leng Ruoxiu said as she suppressed her laughter. I just feel like they're disturbing our lives. The demon gritted his teeth. If it wasn't for Shuer wanting to watch a good show, he would have thrown those people out of the door long ago. It wasn't me. I'm innocent. When the demon heard this, he quickly revealed an aggrieved expression. All right. They're here for me. Since Miss Hei Mei wants me to die so badly, how can I disappoint her? Leng Ruoxiu laughed calmly. Since there was someone who thought she was too free, how could she not cooperate? They're just a bunch of ants. If you don't like them, just kill them directly. Anyway, there are many people here, so it doesn't matter if we lose a few of them. The demon said ruthlessly. Those who dared to disturb his and his wife's time together deserve to die. Don't be so violent. We have to convince people with reason. Leng Ruoxue clearly didn't want to use violence to deal with He Mei. That would be too boring. Alright. However, it's best if you don't let that woman appear in front of me, or I can't guarantee that I won't kill her. The evil flame roared. I can't guarantee that. Who knows when she'll suddenly come? Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. Thanks, I know. Leng Ruoxue replied. She then turned to the demon and said, Look, speak of the devil is here. I don't care if she's Cao Chao or whoever she is. In any case, I don't want to see her. The demon said angrily. Then stay in your room. I'll go talk to her myself. After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, she left the evildoer behind and left the room alone. After Leng Ruoxue left, the evildoer's face darkened even more. However, he did not want to see that woman, so he did not chase after Leng Ruoxue. When Leng Ruoxue reached the living room, before she could say anything, He Mei rushed over and held her hand with a nervous look. Miss Leng, how's your health? You don't look too good. You're the one who doesn't look good. Your entire family doesn't look good. Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but curse in her heart. However, she still maintained an elegant smile on her face and said, Thank you for your concern, Miss He, I'm fine. Oh. He Mei nodded and seemed to be relieved, but in reality, she was extremely depressed. Because just now, those doctors had told her that they had not found out about Miss Leng's condition. She felt that the savings in her private account were decreasing day by day, and her heart was in pain as if it was being cut by a knife. She had found a total of 6 doctors, and these 6 doctors cost her 5 million alliance dollars a day, so 6 of them would cost her $3,000. What was even more hateful was that Ji Kai had asked her to pay him daily. If this continued, she felt that she was going to go bankrupt. However, she did not give up. How could she not find out what illness this woman had? From a certain perspective, He Mei was very persistent, so persistent that she was almost crazy. In addition, she had spent so much money, so she had to find out the truth about Leng Ruoxue's illness. This way, it would give Ji Kai, the head butler, a lot more money to use. So now, Ji Kai had already regarded He Mei as his financial backer and welcomed her arrival. When he saw He Mei, Ji Kai felt like he was seeing countless alliance dollars. Miss Leng, it's my father's birthday in a few days. There's a banquet in the Hei family, and I've specially come over to invite you all to attend. After being depressed for a while, He Mei directly stated her intention and gave him a gold-stamped invitation. In reality, she only wanted to invite the evildoer. In her heart, she also hoped that Leng Ruoxue would not be able to go because of her illness. However, as a noble with status and position, these words naturally could not be said by her. However, if she wanted Leng Ruoxue to take the initiative to say that she couldn't go, that would be wishful thinking. This was because Leng Ruoxue had already received the invitation and replied with a smile, Thank you for the invitation, Miss He. Well, be there as scheduled. I'll be waiting for you at home then. He Mei continued to say gloomily. Then, she sat for a while more before leaving. Leng Ruoxue was a little surprised that He Mei had left so quickly. Could it be because she had not seen the demon? Although not seeing the evildoer made He Mei depressed, what made her even more depressed was Leng Ruoxue. In He Mei's eyes, Leng Ruoxue was like a pain in the ass. She was too difficult to deal with. It even made her feel like she couldn't eat it. If she continued to stay, she might have a heart attack. After He Mei left, the doctors looked at Leng Ruoxue, not knowing what to say. However, the deep sympathy in their eyes could not be concealed. Seeing them like this, Leng Ruoxue's mouth twitched. Did these people think that she was going to be bullied by He Mei? Miss Leng, I suggest that you don't go. It's definitely a trap. I'm afraid it'll be like a meat bun hitting a dog, there's no return. Without waiting for Leng Ruoxue to speak, a doctor couldn't help but speak first. A meat bun to hit a dog? In your eyes, who's the meat bun and who's the dog? Hearing the doctor's words, Leng Ruoxue raised her eyebrows and asked with a smile. Chapter 3007, What's the Structure of the Brain? 3, Ugh. A certain kind-hearted doctor suddenly felt that he had said the wrong thing. The woman in front of him was definitely not a dog. If she was a meat bun, it would definitely be a meat bun that was very difficult to chew. But in his mind, he still couldn't go to the Hei family to attend the Hongmen banquet. Who knew what would happen there? Most importantly, after living with Leng Ruoxue and the other two for a few days, even though Leng Ruoxue and that terrifying man rarely showed their faces, they had at least developed a revolutionary friendship. Hence, he really did not wish for the three of them to go to the Hei family. If they really did, they would definitely be watched by the side. No matter what happened, it was hard to say. In the doctor's eyes, even though Leng Ruoxue and the other two had unfathomable strength, he didn't think that they would be able to defeat those high-tech energy weapons. However, Leng Ruoxue still appreciated his kindness and continued to smile. Don't worry, I'll take you guys with me. I guarantee that I won't follow that day. When she said that, the 6 doctors were all worried. This was the rhythm of a duel to snatch a man. Miss Leng, you should consider it carefully. Another doctor said. There's no need to think about it, Miss Hay treats me as her sister, I believe she won't have any ill intentions towards me. Leng Ruoxue said with a don't worry expression. No way. The doctors looked at Leng Ruoxue with disdain. They did not believe that Leng Ruoxue and Hei Mei were as close as sisters. That would be too strange. However, Leng Ruoxue no longer gave them the chance to convince themselves. After greeting the crowd, she turned around and returned to her room. After entering the room, Leng Ruoxue looked at the evildoer with an evil smile. She waved the invitation card in her hand and said, Someone invited us to a banquet. I'm not going. The evildoer rejected him very directly. Why not? If I don't go, Hei Mei will think that I'm afraid of her or that I'm beyond cure. So, I have to go. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Sure, the demon still wanted to persuade her, but Leng Ruoxue only said, I'll go make 2 gowns for us. Then, she entered the bracelet in a flash. For the next few days, Leng Ruoxue didn't come out at all. She was a demon who was in a bad mood. From the first day she was abandoned, she kept releasing cold air from her body. Ji Kai and the doctors were so scared that they could only stay in their rooms obediently. They didn't dare to take a step out, or they would freeze to death. On Saturday morning, Leng Ruoxue finally came out. Holding a pure black suit in her hand, she presented it to the evildoer. However, the evildoer proudly raised his head and did not look at Leng Ruoxue. Put it on and let me see. Leng Ruoxue coaxed. I'm not wearing it. His devilish little temper rose. Humph. Just because of a piece of tattered clothing, you hung me out to dry for a few days. The demon would settle the accounts after autumn. Ah. I was wrong, all right. Leng Ruoxue took the initiative to admit her mistake. Then tell me, how are you going to compensate me? The demon asked. This was the most important thing. Well, compensate you in whatever way you say, okay? Leng Ruoxue replied obediently. This is more like it. The demon nodded his head in satisfaction and changed into the set of clothes that Leng Ruoxue had made for him. While the demon was changing his clothes, Leng Ruoxue also changed into the dress she had made for herself. It was also black and was a couple's outfit with the demoness. More importantly, the front part of her dress was very conservative, but the back. Thanks, it was cool and smooth like silk. He touched Leng Ruoxue's body again. After confirming that it was her skin, the evil demon turned Leng Ruoxue's body around. When he saw the large patch of her beautiful, snow-white back that was exposed, his face darkened. Who gave you permission to dress like this? The demon gritted his teeth and roared with fire spewing out of his eyes. Every inch of Shuai's skin belonged to him, how could he let other men see it? It was his. They were all his. As long as he thought of his wife's beautiful back being seen by a group of perverts, the anger in the demon's heart would rush to the top of his head. After removing his clothes and covering Leng Ruoxue, he continued to speak through gritted teeth, "You're not allowed to wear this, take it off. This is already the most conservative method." Leng Ruoxue felt a little aggrieved. She knew that the demon would not be able to accept it, but she did not expect such a big reaction. "This is the most conservative method? Then tell me, how is it not conservative?" The demon felt like he was about to go crazy. "It's more exposed than this," Leng Ruoxue said softly. In reality, she had taken reference from the dressing habits of the people in this galaxy and combined it with some designs from her previous life. She knew that evildoers were petty and jealous, so she had tried her best to be conservative. However, she didn't expect that he still couldn't accept it. As expected, the demon's eyes seemed to be spitting out even more flames when he heard this. Leng Ruoxue could only take out a light golden shawl that she had prepared beforehand and put it on her shoulders. She then said helplessly, "It should be fine now, right?" Seeing the demon nod his head unwillingly, Leng Ruoxue finally heaved a sigh of relief. She thought to herself, "Thank God I've made 2 preparations." When she pulled the evildoer out of the room, his face was still sullen. His eyes would drift to Leng Ruoxue's back from time to time, afraid that even a little bit of skin that belonged to him would be exposed. Seeing him like this, Leng Ruoxue felt helpless. Ji Kai and the others felt that the atmosphere was not right, and they were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe. Like chicks that had just come out of their shells, Ji Kai and the other 7 hid in a corner and stood in a row. No one dared to come forward. "When are we leaving?" Leng Ruoxue took the initiative to ask when she saw their reaction. "The HEIs will send a car to pick us up," Ji Kai quickly said, meaning that he would just wait. Leng Ruoxue understood and pulled the evildoer over to sit on the sofa in the living room. Not long after, the HEI's hover car arrived. The driver knocked on the door and opened it. When he saw Leng Ruoxue and the other 2, he was still a little nervous. However, when he saw that the 3 of them did not even spare him a glance, he calmed down instead. When they got into the hover car, there was a large space beside Leng Ruoxue and the demon. Ji Kai and the other 7 squeezed into a small corner, refusing to sit beside them. Leng Ruoxue could only sigh when she saw this. The demon's power was getting stronger and stronger. He didn't know if these people would still dare to stay in front of them after today's banquet. Leng Ruoxue believed that it would be a lively night. The HEI family was located in the Forest Avenue, the most prosperous noble area in the vast universe. Every inch of land there was worth tens of thousands of gold. More importantly, the nobles who could live there were not ordinary nobles. The families living there were all legendary families in the vast star area. Of course, it wasn't the current head of the family who created this legend, but their ancestors. Chapter 3008, What's the Structure of the Brain? 4. The reason why the Black family was able to have such a pivotal position in the vast star field was because the Black family had once produced an unparalleled ancestor. This ancestor was also a woman, and she was conferred the title of Duke of Black Rose as a woman. She led the family to become one of the top aristocrats in the advanced civilization star field. Because of the existence of the great woman, the Duke of Black Rose, the status of women in the Black family was quite high. After all, the Black family really hoped that their family could produce another outstanding and admired Black Rose. Currently, among the Haijia's heiresses, the most valued ones were Hei Mei and Hei Luo. However, there were rumors that these two had always been at odds with each other and liked to snatch things that caught the other's eye. The Hei family was a little far from where Leng Ruoxue was staying. By the time they reached the Forest Avenue, it was already close to evening. As soon as she alighted from the hover car, a large and magnificent building complex with golden walls came into view. At that moment, there were only 2 words in Leng Ruoxue's heart, nouveau riche. From her point of view, this Hei family was definitely afraid that others didn't know how rich they were. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made the house in front of them so golden. Just as Leng Ruoxue was sighing, Hei Mei, who had already received the news, ran out of the house with a delicate and anxious expression. She first looked at the evildoer with a blushing face, then turned her gaze to Leng Ruoxue and said, "Miss Leng, you're here." Leng Ruoxue nodded her head in silence. "My family is not bad, right? It's more luxurious inside," Hei Mei said proudly. However, when Leng Ruoxue heard her words, she deeply felt that Hei Mei was trying to use money to throw at her. Did he really think he was someone who had never seen the world? After all, she was the master of a realm now. Why would he care about a tycoon from the lower realm? In Leng Ruoxue's eyes, Hei Mei was no different from a nouveau riche. Hence, she automatically blocked Hei Mei's fair side. Hei Mei felt extremely depressed when she saw how it felt like her flashy punch had landed on cotton. She kept cursing Leng Ruoxue for not seeing the world, but she still held Leng Ruoxue's arm affectionately, wanting to pull her inside. Who knew that the evildoer would angrily snatch his wife's arm from Hei Mei's hand and hold it himself? He did not even look at Hei Mei and walked into the black house. Hei Mei was stunned on the spot. Her pink, delicate, and exquisitely painted beautiful little face suddenly turned green and white. However, she did not think that the person in her heart would do such a thing. It was because the demon's possessiveness of his wife had already reached the point where both men and women should not get close to her. He even thought that a certain man was angry because she did not greet him. Thinking of this, Hei Mei was extremely vexed. She just wanted to act more reserved, so she didn't say hello to her sweetheart. How could he misunderstand her like this? Hei Mei also hurriedly followed in. Ji Kai, who saw all of Hei Mei's thoughts, felt like thunder was rolling in his heart. Thousands of "you" were running through his mind. Then, he followed her in. He could not ignore the famous mansion of the Duke of Black Rose. At this time, in the garden in the courtyard, a group of nobles had gathered in twos and threes to attend the banquet. The banquet was self-help, so many familiar people were gathered together to chat. The arrival of Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer silenced the entire courtyard. Everyone stared at them with their eyes wide open. In the end, it was Hei Mei who could not bear it and broke the silence. "What are you all doing? Didn't you all want to see the person in the video?" Hei Mei said with a smile. "Thanks, let me introduce you, this is..." Hei Mei looked at the demon and suddenly realized that she didn't even know the name of her sweetheart. This was really wrong. He looked towards Leng Ruoxue for help. Leng Ruoxue smiled gently and kindly, "My husband's surname is Yi." When Hei Mei heard that her sweetheart's surname was Yi, her heart burst with joy. Her surname was Hei, and her sweetheart's surname was Yi. This was really fate. "This is Mr. Yi." Hei Mei continued with her introduction. Unfortunately, the demons still didn't even spare her a glance. "Let me formally introduce to everyone, the beauty on my left is the famous Miss Leng. Although she is only Mr. Yi's concubine, she is my good sister, so no one is allowed to bully her." Although her sweetheart didn't even look at her, Hei Mei didn't mind at all. If she got a man as soon as she chased him, there would be no sense of accomplishment. And she liked people who ignored women like this. To put it bluntly, she had a somewhat cheap mentality. After hearing her introduction, everyone present immediately understood what was going on. He was trying to make a black person out of this. Who would introduce good sisters like this? If there were really such sisters, everyone would turn hostile. However, seeing that Leng Ruoxue was still smiling, more than half of the people believed Hei Mei's words and looked down on Leng Ruoxue. Unfortunately, Leng Ruoxue didn't care about their comments at all. She only maintained her perfect smile and pulled back the infuriated evildoer, signaling him to calm down. Even if he wanted to cause trouble, he didn't need to be in such a hurry. Taking advantage of their unguarded state, Leng Ruoxue brought the evildoer and retreated into a corner. After setting up a barrier, the demon said hatefully, "I'm going to tear that woman apart." "Why? Didn't you say that I'm your wife and concubine?" "What, she only said that she's a concubine and you can't bear it?" Leng Ruoxue teased. "If she didn't say it in front of me, I could pretend that I didn't know anything, but I can't say it in front of me." How can I tolerate her humiliating you like this? And the people here, I won't let a single one of them off. His violent and demonic nature had surfaced, and he couldn't wait to destroy everything here. It's up to her. We can't stop her from introducing us however she wants to. However, not everyone is here yet. Are you really going to make a move now? Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Then let's wait until everyone is here. The demon's pitch-black eyes flashed with a trace of bloodthirsty madness as he said. Be good. Don't be impulsive, I haven't played enough yet. Or do you think him someone who likes to be taken advantage of? Leng Ruoxue consoled. Of course I know you won't be at a disadvantage, but you're my wife, I won't allow anyone to bully you. The demon said in a domineering manner. Then, he stretched out his long arms and hugged Leng Ruoxue tightly, refusing to let go. Yes, I only allow you to bully me. Leng Ruoxue revealed an alluring smile. How could I bear to bully you? The demon said, and hugged her even tighter. The two of them stayed in the barrier and acted lovey-dovey, while Hei Mei and the others outside were extremely vexed. How did the two of them disappear without a trace? They searched the entire courtyard, but they couldn't find him. Chapter 3009, What's the Structure of the Brain? 5, Time slowly passed. An hour later, almost everyone who came to the banquet had arrived. This banquet was to celebrate the birthday of the Hei family's head, so the Hei family was very generous. Countless cultivated vegetables and rare pure green vegetables were placed on the dining table. However, looking at the dazzling array of food in front of him, Ji Kai had no appetite at all. He was not the only one. The doctors who had been pampered for the past few days also did not really care about this junk food. However, when other people saw it, they were extremely excited. After all, unless there was an important occasion, even the nobles would not have the opportunity to eat fresh vegetables often. At this moment, knowing that most of the guests had arrived, Leng Ruoxue and the demon walked out of the barrier. After a while, Hei Mei, who had discovered the two of them, ran to their side and said with a worried face, Brother Yi, Miss Leng, where have you run off to? Brother Yi and Miss Leng. Leng Ruoxue raised her brows. There was really a difference between close and distant relatives. She's calling me brother so quickly. He looked at the evildoer mockingly, and his face darkened. He did not give him any face as he said, Who gave you the permission to call me brother? You're not worthy. Hei Mei was a little dumbfounded. How could Brother Yi treat her like this? She was really too sad. However, the evildoer did not care if she was sad or not. His wife's feelings were the most important. After saying you're not worthy, the evildoer pulled Leng Ruoxue away in front of Hei Mei. He wanted to find a place with fewer people, but he was blocked by a middle-aged man who seemed to have an extraordinary status after taking just 2 steps. The demon was very unhappy and wanted to beat someone up. Seeing the handsome man's face darken, the middle-aged man realized that he was not very popular. However, he still introduced himself shamelessly, Mr. Yi and Miss Leng, right? I'm the current Duke of Black Rose, and also the master of the Black family. Welcome. Is there something? The demon asked impatiently. Ah. A little. Can we talk in the study room? The head of the Hei family asked courteously. The demon did not want to agree at first, but he agreed after Leng Ruoxue gave him a look. Just as the two of them were about to follow the head of the Hei family to the study, Hei Mei appeared out of nowhere again and said with an unhappy face, Father, Miss Leng is only Big Brother Black's concubine, how can she enter the study? Get lost. The demon really couldn't take it anymore. After telling her to get lost, he stretched out his foot and kicked Hei Mei, sending her flying. Leng Ruoxue was very calm as she watched Hei Mei draw a perfect arc in the air. She knew that the evildoer had already reached his limit. On the other hand, the master of the Hei family's expression was very ugly. He really did not expect the man in front of him to kick his precious daughter away in front of him. However, when he thought of what he wanted to say, he could only suppress the dissatisfaction in his heart. However, The head of the Hei family was also used to being overbearing, and although he had restrained some dissatisfaction in his heart, he still reminded, Mr. Yi, that's my daughter. She is my wife, not the concubine your daughter is talking about. The demon hugged Leng Ruoxue and said. Thanks, aren't we going to the study? The demon asked indifferently. Yes. This way, please. The head of the Hei family said courteously. After the three of them left, the scene was silent for a moment. Originally, when the beauty was kicked away, some people wanted to fight for justice, but seeing that the head of the Hei family, as her father, didn't say anything, many aristocrats who wanted to protect the flower, after weighing the pros and cons, also tactfully shut their mouths. When Ji Kai saw his master's display of power, his respect for his master was like a raging river. However, the few doctors who had already formed revolutionary friendships with Leng Ruoxue and the other two were very worried about this. Ji Kai, the head of the Hei family, is famous for his vindictive nature. Is it a good idea for your master to offend him like this? A doctor said in a low voice, his face full of worry. Don't worry, my master is not afraid of him. Ji Kai patted his chest and promised. His heart had been strengthened by his master and his wife, but the 6 doctors still couldn't relax. At the same time, Leng Ruoxue, an evildoer of evil, followed Master He to the study. As soon as he sat down, the head of the Hei family went straight to the point and smiled. If I'm not mistaken, both of you are ability users, right? The two of them looked at each other and nodded. Are you interested in joining my He tribe? The head of the Hei family continued to ask. He could see that these two ability users were very mysterious, and their strength was unpredictable, so he really hoped that these two could be used by him. Of course, if the two in front of him were not willing, he would not let the other families benefit, because he knew that many families already had ideas about them. At the current stage, all the major families were using recruitment as their approach. The reason why all the families were interested in the two in front of them was mainly because their abilities were somewhat different. It was something they had never heard of before. If he couldn't get such a person, he could only destroy him. The head of the Hei family thought that he cherished talents, so he didn't want to take that last step yet. I'm not interested, the demon directly refused. Aren't you two going to discuss it? The head of the Hei family said unhappily after being rejected. There's no need for discussion. My husband's decision is naturally mine. Leng Ruoxue smiled. But I still hope that the two of you can consider it carefully. Joining our He family will definitely be beneficial to you. The head of the Hei family tempted. What benefits? Leng Ruoxue asked, pretending to be interested. I can marry my daughter to Mr. Yi. Then we'll be a family. The head of the Hei family said with a sense of self-satisfaction. When Leng Ruoxue heard this, she felt a little stifled. She had never expected that this father would be even more direct than his daughter. In contrast, she liked He Mai's roundabout strategy. At least, she could laugh at her. However, the moment this old man from the Hei family stepped in, he directly announced the result. In this way, it was no longer interesting. Leng Ruoxue did not have the patience to feign civility with the other party. At this moment, she was furious. Could it be that Master He has dementia? Have you forgotten that we are husband and wife? Leng Ruoxue questioned with a cold smile. At this moment, the evildoer didn't say anything. He even shamelessly put on a weak look, as if he was a young man who was about to be snatched away by someone. He looked at Leng Ruoxue with a nervous and scared expression. His extremely handsome face was red with the words "Please protect me." 3 big words. Men. What's the big deal with having 3 wives and 4 concubines? Besides, don't you have a good relationship with Mayor? Now that I've made you true sisters, let you become part of our He family, you should be grateful. The head of the Hei family said self-righteously, and then said with a heavy heart, Young man, you should know what is best for you. As your elder, how can I harm you? Chapter 30:10, What's the structure of the brain? 6. Who set him close to your daughter? Who wants to be a member of your He family? And whose elder are you? Old man, I've seen shameless people before, but I've never seen someone as shameless as you.
Who do you think you are?
Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue was even more furious. At this moment, she wanted nothing more than to tear the old man in front of her into pieces. Otherwise, it would be difficult to dispel the hatred in her heart. However, when he heard Leng Ruoxue's words, the head of the Hei family wasn't angry at all. Instead, he said to the demon with a disapproving look, "Mr. Yi, can't you take care of your wife? You let a woman bare her fangs and brandish her claws in front of others, what kind of behavior is that? She's the head of the family in my family." The demon said with a smile. What? What a disgrace. If you can't lift your head, won't Mayor have to suffer when she marries you? I'm warning you, my Mayor will never be a concubine. You should ask her to give up her position as the main wife. I can give her an equal wife. The head of the Hei family said with an expression of showing mercy. Hearing this, the furious evildoer was speechless.
What was the structure of this old man's brain?
How could he be so self-righteous to this extent? This was definitely the weirdo that Shuai always talked about. Leng Ruoxue was also amused. She could not help but say, "Hey family head, it looks like you're not only senile, but also deaf. Old man, don't be so full of yourself, okay? Do you think that your daughter wants just anyone? My daughter is the Hei family's young miss." When the head of the Hei family heard Leng Ruoxue's words, he was so angry that his face and neck turned red. So what? In my eyes, you're just an ant. Leng Ruoxue didn't want to waste any more time with the other party. She immediately threw a small flame to a corner and pulled the demon to jump out of the window. When the master of the Hei family saw Leng Ruoxue's actions, he was shocked. He thought that the two of them were going to jump off the building and was about to call for help. A half-meter-tall flame burst out of his study room. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue and the demon had already descended from the sky under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Ji Kai was dumbfounded, and the doctors were even more dumbfounded.
What was going on? Why did he come down from the sky?
After the two landed, the onlookers, who felt that the atmosphere was not right, didn't dare to go forward. However, Ji Kai didn't dare to hide at this time. He braced himself and asked, "Master, madam, what happened? Your master almost had a wife." Leng Ruoxue said lightly. Her beautiful eyes looked in the direction of the study before she continued, "Let's go back." Ah! Ji Kai finally understood what Leng Ruoxue meant. When he heard Madam say go back, he felt dizzy and lost. Then, Leng Ruoxue teleported away with the demon and Ji Kai. She ignored the 6 doctors. Not long after they left, someone shouted, "Fire!" Immediately, the courtyard was in chaos. The aristocrats attending the banquet all cherished their lives very much. They fought to be the first to rush out of the courtyard. No one thought of putting out the fire. And when the people of the Hei family saw that the fire was too fast and out of control, they also became a mess and ran out. In a few breaths, the resplendent He family's mansion turned into ashes. Thanks the Hei tribesmen, who had just survived the disaster, finally remembered to look for their master. In the end, when they did a head count, they miraculously discovered that there were no casualties, but the Hei family's priceless ancient ancestral home had been completely burned to the ground by the sudden fire. The master of the Hei family, who had finally woken up, saw what had happened to his family. He was so angry that he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, then his eyes rolled back and he fainted. When he woke up again and his clansmen asked him what had happened, he said very decisively, "Those 2 people must be the work of those 2 bastards."
Which 2 bastards?
The clansmen clearly didn't quite understand what the clan head meant. The couple in the video. You idiot. The master of the Hei family was furious that his clansmen could not understand him. "Master, is there any evidence?" An elder asked very cautiously. If it was really done by those two people, just based on the fact that they only set fire to the house without harming anyone, their strength was not easy to deal with. I don't need evidence. I'm sure they did it. The head of the Hei family definitely shouted. His heart was bleeding as he looked at the ancestral home that had been burned to ruins. Family head, if we have evidence, we can use it to sue them to the Alliance Council and ask for compensation for our losses, but without evidence, I'm afraid the council will. One of the elders stopped halfway, but his meaning was clear. No matter if it was true or false, even if it was an accusation, there must be evidence, otherwise the council would not accept it. I saw it with my own eyes. Isn't that enough? The head of the Hei family shouted at the top of his lungs. At this moment, his noble bearing had been completely lost, and there was not a single bit of the demeanor of a head of the family. You can only be considered as a witness, we still need physical evidence. An elder reminded. Let's try. An elder said helplessly. Then, he saw that the family head's expression wasn't too good, so he consoled him, family head, although the ancestral home has been burned down, you don't have to worry too much. Fortunately, many of our Hei family's properties have been preserved. Although he said this, a certain elder's heart was still throbbing in pain. A portion of the assets had been saved, but many of the assets accumulated in the Hei family's ancestral home had been burned down, especially those precious treasures that were difficult to replicate, all turned to ash. This time, the Hei family could be said to have suffered a heavy loss. But at this time, he still had to comfort the family head, who let the family head be the Hei family's pillar of support. Not long after, Hei tribe's news came again. All of the Hei family's properties in the vast expanse star field had been caught in fire and thunderstorms. Even the land occupied by those properties had mysteriously disappeared. According to witnesses, after the fire and thunderstorms, a level 20 tornado had blown the land into the nearby sea. And only the land that belonged to the Hei family had been blown away. The other people's territories were still intact. Because of the tornado that appeared out of nowhere, the vast galaxy was suddenly divided into several continents. As for the Hei family, all that was left was the land where the ancestral mansion was located on the Forest Screen Avenue. However, the Hei family was unable to keep this piece of land in the end, because after the destruction of their business, many families with economic dealings with them were implicated to varying degrees. That piece of land was divided up by the creditors. Almost overnight, the Hei family was only left with the hereditary title of Duke. Other than that, they had nothing. Moreover, he still owed a huge debt. The tragedy of the Hei family was instantly spread throughout the entire vast star field through the star field network, and the reputation of the Hei family rose even higher. Chapter 30:11, What's the structure of the brain? 7. Of course, it wasn't a good reputation. The name of Light Pole Duke spread far and wide. Needless to say, all of this was naturally done by the furious Leng Ruoxue. Didn't the Hei tribe think they had status and status? Then she would make the Hei family lose everything. Not only that, every cent that the Hei family earned in the future had to be used to pay off their debts. As for Ji Kai, who had been watching the whole time, after this incident, his respect for the madam definitely surpassed that of his evil master. Originally, he was still wondering how the madam would deal with the self-righteous Hei family. To think that he would actually take away everything from the Hei family, this was even crueler than killing the Hei family. However, it had enriched his little treasury and made him have a lot of money on hand. This was because the Hei family's assets had not actually been burned down by the fire. Instead, they had benefited from it. After all, Leng Ruoxue was not a person who liked to waste money. Naturally, she would not allow the treasures that the Hei family had accumulated over the years to be reduced to ashes. That night, Ji Kai slept very soundly. Before he went to sleep, he was still thinking that robbery was really a profitable business. He also believed that if his master and madam became interstellar pirates, they would definitely be able to kill each other with one hit. But when he woke up the next day, he was upset again. Because early in the morning, he saw 6 poor little beasts who looked like they had been abandoned outside the door. "Why are you guys here again?" Seeing the 6 pairs of pitiful eyes, Ji Kai didn't show any mercy. The 6 of them didn't know what to say. Could they say that they had been abandoned? Seeing that they didn't say anything, Ji Kai said very realistically, "Your sugar daddy has gone bankrupt. Do you still have money to live here?" The 6 of them did not expect Ji Kai to be so direct. They looked at each other and said in unison, "We can sell our bodies. Master doesn't take in any more servants." Ji Kai made his own decision, and he hated these 6 people to death. "You bastard." He actually came to snatch his rice bowl, wasn't he looking for a beating? "You can also hire an errand boy." One of the doctors carefully tried to please him, and the other 5 doctors quickly agreed. They didn't want to leave. Although this place was a little expensive, they had good food and a good place to live, so they wanted to stay. "You won't even accept an errand boy?" Ji Kai said. He alone was enough. "Butler Ji, you see, we are all doctors and we have every department. If your master and madam have a headache or a fever, we can also be of use, right? Also, don't worry, we definitely won't fight for your favor. We promise." Another doctor said when he saw that Ji Kai was not convinced. "What if I tell you that my master and madam won't get sick at all?" Ji Kai laughed evilly. What did he mean? He couldn't possibly say that master and madam were not human, right? Hearing this, Ji Kai thought for a while and said, "My master and madam will never get sick. Believe it or not." Then, with a bang, Ji Kai closed the door, leaving the 6 people outside. Thanks. After breakfast, Leng Ruoxue and the demon were planning to go to the courtyard to bask in the sun for a while. When they passed by the door, they heard a few uneven voices shouting wildly, "Master! Madam! Let us in!" The 2 of them looked at each other helplessly and asked Ji Kai to let the 6 people in. As soon as the 6 of them entered the living room, they immediately said, "Master, madam, please let us stay. Just for those vegetables." Leng Ruoxue was speechless. This was what a true glutton was like, right? Ugh! The few of them laughed awkwardly, not knowing how to answer. In fact, they were really doing it for the vegetables. They could throw away everything. "You all have families. We don't accept people with families." Leng Ruoxue replied honestly. "Madam, I don't have a family. I've been an orphan since I was a child, so let me follow you." After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, one of the doctors hurriedly said, "Even if you're an orphan, you must have an organization behind you, right? We won't accept it either." Leng Ruoxue shook her head. When the doctor heard this, he immediately burst into tears. Leng Ruoxue, the demon, and Ji Kai were all speechless. Even his 5 medical companions felt embarrassed. This was too embarrassing. In the end, Leng Ruoxue had no choice but to agree to give them some vegetables before sending the 6 of them away. Before they left, the 6 of them cautiously reminded Leng Ruoxue that the Hei family might file a complaint against them to the alliance. As for being accused, naturally, Leng Ruoxue was not afraid. However, she knew that the power of the Alliance Parliament was extremely great, and the vast star field was only one of the star fields of an advanced civilization. In the entire alliance, there were about 10 advanced star fields, as well as countless beginner star fields and hundreds of star fields of intermediate star fields. The management system could be considered to be rather complete. Unfortunately, if the Alliance Council really wanted to stand up for the Hei family this time, then she could only say, "Good luck." As expected, a few days later, Leng Ruoxue's residence welcomed a representative from the Alliance Council. This representative was a man with extremely ordinary facial features. He was slightly bald, had a short stature, and a big belly. To be able to meet someone with such looks in a high-tier civilization star field was an eye-opener for Leng Ruoxue. As for the representative of the Alliance Council, after seeing Leng Ruoxue, he was stunned for a long time before he finally reacted. After he sat down, his little face actually blushed, which was a rare sight, and he lowered his head without saying a word. Leng Ruoxue was speechless when she saw the representative's bashful expression. What was this person trying to do? If you have something to say, say it. Can't you just get out of here? Why are you pretending to be mute? She was a little impatient, and the devilish anger slowly gathered in her dark starry eyes. As a man, how could he not understand this ugly woman's thoughts? Humph. He dared to have ideas about his wife, he was looking for death. After an unknown period of time, the extremely shy representative of the Alliance Council finally spoke. My name is Chao Yu and I'm from the Muyuan royal family. I'm 28 years old this year and I'm single. I have a car and a house and can afford to take care of my wife. I'm gentle, considerate, understanding, and I'll live independently after marriage. I definitely won't have any problems with my mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship, and I'm definitely not a mother's baby. Therefore, you can rest assured about the woman who's going to marry me. I only want to find a high-quality lady who's beautiful, has a charming figure, has a noble aura, and is equally considerate and understanding as my puppet. There was one more thing that Chao Yu didn't dare to say out loud, and that was that he wanted to find someone like Leng Ruoxue. When Leng Ruoxue and the other two heard Chao Yu's words, their reactions were completely different. Leng Ruoxue felt that this person was a little. Was she treating her house as a marriage recommendation center? Of course, she didn't realize that Chao Yu's words were meant for her. In addition, she was only 28 years old, but she already looked like this. She really looked anxious. Chapter 30:12. What is the brain made of? 8. The demon's face darkened, and the anger in his heart rose. You bastard! Was he here to poach her? To dare to poach his woman, he was definitely bold. When it came to matters like love rivals, the same sex was always more sensitive than the opposite sex. Therefore, as soon as Chao Yu finished speaking, he knew that this person had taken a fancy to his wife. Even though he knew that his wife would not run away with anyone else. But who would be willing to have a man who had designs on his wife by his side? Even if the man looked a little apologetic, he was short, rich, and handsome. He glared at Chao Yu sinisterly, and the demon couldn't help but compare the conditions that Chao Yu had mentioned in his heart. Born in the royal family. He was born in the chaos. 28 years old. His current year. He himself had almost forgotten. Unmarried, with a car and a house, can he afford to support his wife? He was married and had no car but a house. Relying on his wife to support him. Gentle, considerate, and understanding. He was also obedient. I'll do whatever my wife asks me to do, and I'll never do anything my wife doesn't like. Living independently after marriage without any problems in the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, wasn't she a mommy's boy? He wasn't either, he didn't even have a mother. All in all, the evildoer felt that he still had a considerable advantage. At the very least, he looked better than this bastard called Chao Yu. Other than the fact that he was poor, he had everything. However, if he had no money, other than robbing, he could only be a pretty boy. Looking at Shuer, the evil demon felt that it was not bad to be a gigolo for his wife. At least, he did not have the thoughts of ordinary men who did not like their wife earning more than themselves. On the contrary, he was very happy to be supported by his wife and did not care at all that others said that he was living off a woman. With this thought, he was instead at ease and corrected his identity, which was a pretty boy who relied on his wife. This was the pride of the evildoer. Leng Ruoxue didn't understand why she suddenly felt like a demon. However, there were outsiders around, so she didn't ask further. Ji Kai, who had been watching from the side, had already deeply felt the malice his evil master had towards a certain representative. Unfortunately, that representative, who had reacted half a beat slower, did not notice it at all. Ji Kai, who didn't want to be cannon fodder, cleverly turned invisible. This kind of meeting between high-end people was really not suitable for a little errand boy like him to participate. If he was not careful, he would lose his life. At the same time, Ji Kai simply hid in a corner and wouldn't come out for no reason. At this moment, Chao Yu, who had just calmed down, suddenly raised his head and asked Leng Ruoxue, "Miss Leng, what do you think?" "What do you mean by, how is it?" Leng Ruoxue was confused. "My conditions for marriage." "Miss Leng," Chao Yu said with a look of disappointment. He kept wondering in his heart, seeing how distracted Miss Leng is, could it be that she didn't hear what I said at all? "Thanks, oh. It's alright, but this isn't a marriage recommendation center. You won't be able to find a wife even if you tell us all this, right? Why don't you go to the marriage introduction center to register first, and then we can talk about other things." Leng Ruoxue tried to remind him. "What does it matter if I believe it or not?" Leng Ruoxue was speechless. What the hell was this? Of course it's related. If Miss Leng doesn't believe me, my marriage path will be very difficult. Take a look, this is my identity certificate. It definitely can't be fake. You can verify it on the Star Network. Afraid that Leng Ruoxue wouldn't believe in his noble identity, Chao Yu even took out his proof of identity and handed it to Leng Ruoxue, looking at her with anticipation. Leng Ruoxue was momentarily at a loss. Then, she was completely speechless. She really felt that everything this man said had nothing to do with her. She really thought so. Why didn't this Chao Yu believe her? How can it not be related? Chao Yu was getting a little anxious. However, Leng Ruoxue didn't give him the chance to mention this matter and asked directly, "Didn't Mr. Chao come for the HEI family? Let's talk about serious business." "Oh, right. We'll talk about our matters later. Let's talk about the HEI family first," Chao Yu said considerately. He took it that Leng Ruoxue was embarrassed. Leng Ruoxue's expression turned ugly when she heard Chao Yu talking about the two of them. What was going on between the two of them? On the other hand, the demon's face also darkened and was covered with dark clouds. It was as if a storm would fall at any moment, giving off a very dangerous feeling. However, Chao Yu, who was immersed in his happiness, was rather alert and didn't feel the immense pressure that was accompanying him at all. On the other hand, Ji Kai, who was hiding in the corner, was so scared that his face turned pale and he almost couldn't breathe. "Miss Leng, the HEI family head has reported to the Alliance Council that you have destroyed the HEI family's property." Chao Yu cleared his throat and said seriously. At this moment, he had already entered the role of his work. He was no longer that silly aristocrat from earlier. "Do you have any evidence?" Leng Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. "The HEI family has submitted a few pieces of evidence, and the HEI family's head even personally said that there's a conflict between you and them. What do you have to say about this?" Chao Yu tried to make his voice sound less serious as he asked. "I don't have anything to say, the HEI family is already so miserable, what else can I say? If your parliament really has evidence, then do what you have to do," Leng Ruoxue said nonchalantly. "Miss Leng, you'd better find a way to prove your innocence. Otherwise, you'll suffer once you're found guilty," Chao Yu said with a look of reluctance. "I'm just a weak woman with no power or influence. If someone really wants to frame me, even if I want to prove my innocence, I'm afraid I won't have the chance, right?" Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. "Miss Leng, you must believe in the parliament's justice." Seeing that Leng Ruoxue seemed to have the idea of breaking the pot and throwing it to the ground, Chao Yu couldn't help but ask anxiously. Even though he wasn't confident when he said that. Before they came here, there were indeed people in the parliament who said that they wanted to take this opportunity to catch the three of them and control them. However, after seeing Leng Ruoxue, Chao Yu felt that he had fallen in love, so he couldn't bear to let Leng Ruoxue suffer. In his opinion, he couldn't control the other two, but he had to protect the woman in front of him. The parliament is just? Then why did I see people protesting the unfairness of the parliament on the internet a few days ago? Leng Ruoxue asked in surprise after hearing Chao Yu's words. "Ah. That was a misunderstanding." Chao Yu broke out in a cold sweat. Actually, by just, he meant that he would help him deal with the situation. "I'm afraid there's no smoke without fire." Leng Ruoxue shook her head, clearly not believing Chao Yu's words. Chao Yu was a little anxious and quickly said, "Miss Leng, even if you don't believe in the parliament, you have to believe in me. How could I let the parliament wrong you?" Chapter 30:13, What's the structure of the brain? 9. His words were very sincere, but Leng Ruoxue only smiled. "Mr. Chao, it's better for you to do business." After a long while, Leng Ruoxue finally spoke. "Miss Leng, how can you give up so easily?" Hearing that Leng Ruoxue wanted him to do business, Chao Yu became even more anxious. If they were really doing business properly, the three of them would have already been in prison. "I'm not giving up. I just believe in the council's fairness, okay?" Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. Then, she called Ji Kai out and asked him to see the guest out. Chao Yu was forced out reluctantly. He stared at Leng Ruoxue's front door for a while sorrowfully before he left gloomily. "Shuer, that guy is quite protective of you." After Chao Yu left, the evildoer, who had already returned to his room with Shuer, asked nonchalantly. "Is there?" "I don't think so." Leng Ruoxue played dumb. "Humph." With a cold snort, Evil Tsundere turned his head to show his dissatisfaction. Leng Ruoxue sighed softly. She knew that the demon was jealous again. After helplessly coaxing him for a long time, Leng Ruoxue promised him many unequal treaties before she finally coaxed the demon. A few days later, when Leng Ruoxue and the demon were about to have lunch, Ji Kai suddenly walked in with an unsightly expression. "What's wrong?" Leng Ruoxue asked when she saw Ji Kai's expression. Using her divine senses, she realized that there were a few unfamiliar men in black in the house. "Madam, the parliament has sent someone to invite us over," Ji Kai said unhappily. He said it was a treat, but everyone knew that it was forced. "Oh. Wait for us to finish lunch." Leng Ruoxue nodded. "Ah. Aren't you going to chase them away?" Ji Kai saw his wife's gentle attitude and asked in confusion. "The parliament is so powerful, can we afford to offend them?" "Of course, I have to follow them obediently," Leng Ruoxue said matter-of-factly. "Madam is right." Ji Kai immediately understood and agreed. In his heart, he silently prayed for the parliament. Amen. The parliament could only pray for themselves. After lunch, Leng Ruoxue and the other two obediently boarded the hover car sent by the parliament. Before they left, Leng Ruoxue naturally wanted to take away her house. When they saw the house suddenly disappear before their eyes, the few law enforcement officers could not help but widen their eyes in shock. Where's the house? How did it disappear? Leng Ruoxue could tell that they had their doubts, so she immediately explained, "I'm taking the house with me, let's get in the car." Seeing how eager Leng Ruoxue was, the Alliance's law enforcement officers couldn't help but give her a sympathetic look. Then, with a look of shock and disbelief, they got into the hover car. After getting into the hover car, Ji Kai suddenly remembered something very important. They didn't have any identification. When they reached the Alliance conference. Oh my god. This was definitely the rhythm of sending a sheep into the tiger's mouth. Thanks, he whispered to his master and madam, but Leng Ruoxue gave Ji Kai a look as if he was an idiot and said, "Do you think the Alliance is a good-for-nothing? They've already checked our identities and know that we're stowaways. I'm treating you as an idiot, but that doesn't include us." Leng Ruoxue was determined to cut off her relationship with Ji Kai. She didn't want to put her intelligence on the same level as him. "Madam," Ji Kai looked at Leng Ruoxue, feeling wronged. He knew that with his master and madam's strength, his worries were unnecessary. However, it was not easy to change the habits that he had developed over the years. He needed time to adapt. Just follow obediently, watch more and talk less. Leng Ruoxue saw how pitiful Ji Kai was, and he was one of her people, so she kindly reminded him. "Yes, yes." Ji Kai quickly nodded and then sat on the chair like an obedient baby, looking at the scenery outside. The hover car used by the Alliance Council was not bad. It was fast, stable, and spacious. He was very satisfied with it. However, the Parliament was not on the same planet as the vast expanse star field, and the distance between the two was quite far. So, when they arrived at the spaceship docking point, they changed to another spaceship and continued to the Parliament. The three of them spent dinner time on the flying ship. Ji Kai took out a pile of prepared food for the three of them to eat and gave a lot to the Alliance's law enforcement officers. He instantly captured the hearts of those law enforcement officers. Leng Ruoxue was very satisfied when she saw that Ji Kai was getting more and more familiar with human relationships. After flying for nearly a day, they finally arrived at the star region where the Alliance Council was located the next afternoon. The planet where the Alliance Conference was held was an independent planet. The people who could live on that planet were basically members of the Alliance Conference. Although there were not many people on that planet, it was the best in terms of defense and wealth. There was the tallest white building on the planet. According to the law enforcement officers of the Alliance Parliament was there. They changed to a hover car and soon arrived at the Alliance Conference. The moment she alighted from the car, Leng Ruoxue saw a ball-shaped object running towards her at high speed. After recognizing the ball with great difficulty, Leng Ruoxue was a little confused. After not seeing him for a few days, Chao Yu had actually gained quite a bit of weight. "Miss Leng, you're here," Chao Yu said courteously. Then, he whispered to the three of them, "If anyone asks you any questions later, don't answer them. I've already hired the best lawyer for you. With a lawyer present, your rights and interests will be protected." "Thank you," Leng Ruoxue said with gratitude. No matter what Chao Yu's motive was, he didn't have any ill intentions towards them at the moment. She couldn't hate such a person. Even though Chao Yu was a little. "Don't mention it, but we'd better pretend that we're not familiar here," Chao Yu reminded again. Leng Ruoxue nodded and thought to herself, "We're not close to begin with." Then, the three of them were brought into the Alliance Parliament. PNDNO1. While the other party was sizing them up, Leng Ruoxue did not stand on ceremony and observed the old man. In the end, she concluded that this was a rather stubborn, power-hungry, and greedy old man. After sitting down, both parties waited for the other party to speak first. According to the old man's original plan, the three of them would definitely feel guilty when they were brought to the Alliance Council. In addition, they had obediently followed the Alliance enforcers here without any resistance. This caused a considerable number of people in the Alliance Council to be disdainful of Leng Ruoxue and the other two. They felt that they were not as terrifying as the rumors had said. Even an ability user couldn't possibly have the ability to overturn rivers and seas. Is he still human? Chapter 30:14, What's the structure of the brain? 10. Unfortunately, even after waiting for a long time, Leng Ruoxue and the other two had no intention of speaking. In the end, it was the old man who couldn't sit still and took the initiative to say, "I am the deputy chairman of the Alliance Council, Fan Tong. You can call me Chairman Fan." Fan Tong. Leng Ruoxue immediately understood. This was a good-for-nothing. Nodding her head, Leng Ruoxue smiled and asked, "I wonder why the good-for-nothing vice-chairman has called us here." Hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Ji Kai couldn't help but burst out laughing. Although the old man didn't hear the madam's curses in a roundabout way, he could tell. But even so, the good-for-nothing deputy speaker still glared at Ji Kai. He deeply felt that the servant was laughing when the master was talking. It was really uneducated. Of course it's because of the Hei family. The noble vice-chairman felt that he should not be calculative with a servant. He spoke to Leng Ruoxue as if it was only natural. "Oh. But I have nothing to discuss with the Heis, and I'll have to wait for my lawyer to come before I can answer your question," Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Her words made the good-for-nothing deputy speaker so angry that his beard trembled. The anger in his heart also rose bit by bit. He even knew how to get a lawyer. He really didn't expect this. The good-for-nothing deputy speaker was deeply surprised. In his eyes, only aristocrats knew how to hire a lawyer. How could a commoner know this? More importantly, a star lawyer was very expensive, not something a commoner could afford. However, even though it was an accident, Leng Ruoxue had already expressed her intention to hire a lawyer. Then, he would have to wait. Otherwise, his position as the deputy speaker would be over if someone got hold of something that could be used against him. After Leng Ruoxue's group of 3 and the good-for-nothing deputy speaker sat there staring at each other for an hour, the late lawyer finally arrived. The lawyer was a rather beautiful woman. She was dressed in a professional suit and black high heels. She swayed as she walked. After she entered, she threw a big wink at the good-for-nothing vice-chairman and gently stroked her brown hair with a sweet smile. Seeing this lawyer, the good-for-nothing deputy speaker could not help but widen his eyes and curse in his heart. Who found this woman? If it was just an ordinary lawyer, he wouldn't be afraid. But this woman's identity was not ordinary. This was because this woman was born in the Muyuan royal family and was a noble princess. In other starfields, the royal family might be dispensable, but the Muyuan starfield was definitely ruled by the royal family. Especially since the princess in front of him was quite favored, the vice speaker's intestines were about to be cut in two. Although the Alliance Council's administrative management was higher than the Muyuan royal family's, to put it bluntly, the Alliance Council was actually just an alliance organization formed by the people in power of various starfields, and the chairman was also rotated by each family. Therefore, the various major forces in the Alliance Council could be said to be deeply intertwined. It was really hard to say which family had a higher status, but the CAO family definitely had a pivotal position in the Alliance Council. The lawyer they hired. Chao Meng pointed at Leng Ruoxue and the other two. Does the imperial family of Muyuan know about this? The good-for-nothing deputy speaker could not help but ask. These 3 people were related to the interests of the alliance. How could Chao Meng ignore the big picture? He was very angry. I've already said that I'm their lawyer. Are you telling me that the royal family wants to interfere with my work? Chao Meng said without a care. Thanks, they are the people the alliance requested to assist in the investigation. The good-for-nothing deputy speaker reminded. Leng Ruoxue was speechless. Was this woman trying to tease her in public? However, she cleverly chose to stay out of this world and talk to her lawyer. Princess Chao Meng, have you forgotten the position of the Muyuan royal family in the alliance? I advise you not to get involved in this matter. After taking a few deep breaths, the good-for-nothing deputy speaker still wanted to persuade Chao Meng to give up her position as the lawyer representing Leng Ruoxue and the other two. After all, the other lawyers did not have a noble status like hers and were much easier to deal with. At least, that was what he thought. Offending the deputy speaker, I can understand it as you threatening me. I'm going to complain to the alliance that you're interfering with the justice of the alliance's laws. Just wait for my lawyer's letter, said Chao Mengyun with a light smile. The good-for-nothing deputy speaker was so angry that he vomited blood. What did he say that would affect the justice of the alliance? Didn't he just want her to understand his position? The extremely depressed deputy speaker felt that he had no way to communicate with Chao Meng. He turned to Leng Ruoxue and the other two and said, since your lawyer is here, you should talk to him first. I'll send someone to ask you about the Hei family later. He had decided to retreat. Otherwise, he would have been angered to death by Chao Meng. After saying that, Good-for-Nothing left in a depressed mood. The moment Good-for-Nothing left, Chao Meng immediately cast her curious gaze on Leng Ruoxue. She squinted her eyes and said with a green light in her eyes, she's indeed a stunning beauty. She was teased again. Leng Ruoxue was speechless. However, she could tell that this woman was just joking with her. You're not bad yourself, she said. Of course. I've always been confident in my looks and figure. Chao Meng laughed heartily, then suddenly said, Chao Yu is my older brother. Leng Ruoxue blinked her eyes. She had already guessed this. After all, both of them were from the royal family of Muyuan. However, she didn't know what the woman in front of her meant by mentioning Chao Yu. Did he want her to be grateful? Originally, my brother wasn't looking for me. However, this is the first time I've seen him so enthusiastic about a woman, so I came out of curiosity. Chao Meng continued. When she saw Ling Ruoxue, Chao Meng felt that she had made the right decision to come. However, she could tell that the beauty in front of her would never fall for her brother. Big brother's spring water is going to be in vain. At the thought of this, Chao Meng could not help but glance at the devilish man beside Ling Ruoxue with hidden bitterness. With such a man by her side, a woman's taste would definitely be spoiled. Seeing his action, Chao Meng was stunned at first, and then burst into a burst of silvery laughter. Obviously, she was laughing very happily. Are you done laughing? Ling Ruoxue was speechless when she saw Chao Meng's endless laughter. Ha ha ha. You're quite cute, man. Chao Meng praised. No matter how cute she is, she's taken. Ling Ruoxue squinted her eyes as she replied indifferently. I know. Don't worry, he's not my type. Afraid of being misunderstood, Chao Meng quickly said. Then, after thinking for a while, she suddenly asked mysteriously, by the way, do you have any secrets to chasing men? Can you teach me? I've taken a fancy to a man, but I couldn't get him even after a long time.